In this video, I'll be explaining the entire timeline of The Legend of Zelda in chronological order, covering every major event and game that shapes the history of Hyrule. We're going to walk through all 20 main entries in the series, from the mythic creation of the world itself all the way through to the most recent events in Tears of the Kingdom. Though I should note that spin-offs like Hyrule Warriors, Cadence of Hyrule, and Link's Crossbow Training are excluded, as they are not considered part of the main canonical timeline. As always, throughout the video, there will be a timeline animation at the bottom of the screen, so you can easily follow along and understand exactly when each event takes place. Now, if you're familiar with this series at all, you probably know that the Zelda timeline is notoriously complex, and here's why. The entire timeline famously splits into 3 distinct branches after one pivotal game, leading to vastly different futures for Hyrule, which means we'll be tracking not just one linear history, but 3 separate continuities that all stem from the same crucial moment. But before we get to any of that, we need to explain the setting first, because understanding how Hyrule came to exist and what forces shaped its earliest days is absolutely essential to making sense of everything that follows. Before we can understand the countless adventures, the heroes, and the cycle of conflict that defines The Legend of Zelda, we need to go back to the very beginning. Not just the beginning of recorded history, but to a time before time itself had meaning. This is the Mythic Age, an era that exists beyond mortal comprehension when the universe as we know it had not yet taken form. In this primordial state, there was only chaos. No land, no sky, no distinction between elements. The cosmos existed as an undifferentiated void, a swirling maelstrom of raw potential waiting to be shaped into something coherent. It was into this formless expanse that 3 divine beings descended, entities so powerful and fundamental to existence itself that they would come to be known simply as the Golden Goddesses. These 3 goddesses, Din, Nayru, and Furore, each embodied a core aspect of reality. Din represented power, the raw force necessary to shape matter and energy. Nayru embodied wisdom, the logical framework and natural laws that would govern how things interact. And Furore carried courage, the spark of will and life that would allow creation to grow and change on its own. Together, they would transform the chaos into an ordered world. Din was the first to act. The goddess of power raised her mighty arms and plunged them into the chaotic void. With movements like a sculptor working clay, she cultivated the land itself. Mountains erupted from nothingness, their peaks scraping against the newly formed sky. Valleys carved themselves between the ranges, creating space for what would come next. The earth cooled and hardened, taking on the red hues that would forever mark it as Din's domain. She crafted the very substance of the physical world, every stone and grain of sand, every cliff face and cavern. The raw geography of the realm that would become known as Hyrule took shape under her divine touch. But land alone does not make a world. Matter without rules is simply chaos in a different form. This is where Nayru, the goddess of wisdom, contributed her essential work. She cast her divine essence across the newly formed land and established the laws that would govern it. Gravity would pull objects toward the earth. Water would flow downward, seeking the lowest point. Fire would consume and transform. The seasons would turn in their eternal cycle. Day would give way to night, and night to day again. These were not merely suggestions, but fundamental rules woven into the fabric of reality itself. Nayru's gift was order, predictability, the very concept of natural law. Without her contribution, nothing could exist in a stable form. The blue light of her wisdom permeated every corner of creation, ensuring that the world would function according to consistent principles. Yet, even with land and law, the world remained empty and still. It was Furore, the goddess of courage, who would breathe true vitality into this ordered landscape. She scattered her life-giving energy across the world like seeds upon fertile soil. Where her green light touched, life sprang forth in countless forms. Plants pushed up through the soil, their roots drinking deep from underground springs. Trees stretched toward the sky, their branches spreading wide. Creatures began to move across the land, through the air and beneath the waves. Some would walk on 2 legs, others on 4 or more. Some would think and reason, building societies and cultures. Others would act on instinct, filling ecological niches in the grand web of life. Furore created not just individual organisms, but the very concept of life itself, that mysterious quality that separates the animate from the inanimate. Every living thing in Hyrule, from the smallest insect to the races of thinking beings who would inherit the world, owed its existence to her gift. With their work complete, the 3 golden goddesses prepared to depart from the world they had created. They had given it everything it needed to flourish and evolve on its own. But before they ascended back to the heavens, back to whatever divine realm they called home, they left behind a final gift. At the very point where they had first touched the world, at the sacred place where divine met mortal, they left an artifact of immense power. This relic, forged from the essence of the goddesses themselves, contained a fragment of their divine authority. It took the form of 3 golden triangles joined together, each triangle representing one of the goddesses and the virtue she embodied: power, wisdom, courage. This was the Triforce, the most sacred relic in all of Hyrule's history. It possessed the ability to grant the wishes of whoever touched it, effectively giving mortals a taste of divine power. The Triforce was left at what would become known as the Sacred Realm, a hidden dimension connected to but separate from the physical world. This resting place of the gods would remain untouched for ages, a pristine sanctuary holding the ultimate prize. And so the stage was set. The world had been created, life had taken root, and an artifact of unlimited power waited in a hidden realm. The golden goddesses had given the world everything it needed, but they had also introduced the seeds of future conflict. For where there is great power, there will always be those who seek to claim it for themselves. With the world now formed and the gods having entrusted the Triforce to the goddess Hylia, we move forward countless ages into what is known as the Ancient Age, the era of Hyrule's founding. This is where our story truly begins, not with the creation of the world itself, but with the first great conflict that would define every adventure to come. The surface world in this distant time is a place of natural beauty and primitive civilizations. Humans live simple lives, unaware of the power that rests beneath their feet or the cosmic forces that watch over them. But this peace is not destined to last. From the fissures in the earth, from the spaces between worlds, an army of monsters begins to emerge. Leading them is a being of pure malice, a creature whose very existence seems antithetical to life itself. His name is Demise, and he is the Demon King. Demise is not simply a powerful monster or a warlord commanding lesser creatures. He is the physical embodiment of hatred, a primordial force of destruction given terrible form. His appearance alone speaks to his nature, towering and imposing, with flames for hair and eyes that burn with an insatiable hunger for power. What Demise desires above all else is the Triforce, the ultimate power left behind by the golden goddesses. With it, he could remake reality according to his dark vision, transforming the world into a realm of eternal suffering. The Demon King's armies sweep across the surface world with devastating efficiency. Villages burn. The land itself seems to wither under the shadow of his presence. Humanity faces extinction, and the primitive weapons and courage of these early people are simply no match for the demonic horde. It becomes clear that without divine intervention, the surface world will fall entirely into darkness. The goddess Hylia, who has been watching over the Triforce and the land itself, recognizes that she must act, but even a goddess has limitations. Hylia understands that while she possesses immense power, she cannot wield the Triforce herself. The golden goddesses created it to be used only by mortal hands, and even a deity serving as their proxy cannot bypass this fundamental rule. She can protect it, she can hide it, but she cannot use it to simply wish Demise out of existence. So Hylia devises a desperate plan, one that requires sacrifice on a scale almost unimaginable. She gathers the surviving humans, every man, woman, and child she can save from the Demon King's rampage, and places them on a massive outcropping of Earth. Then, using the full extent of her divine power, she tears this section of land from the surface world itself and lifts it high into the sky, far above the clouds where Demise and his armies cannot reach. This floating island becomes known as Skyloft, and it will serve as humanity's sanctuary for thousands of years to come. But Hylia does not stop there. She takes the Triforce itself and hides it in a location even more remote, ensuring that Demise will never be able to claim it. With humanity and the ultimate power now secured, Hylia turns her attention to the Demon King himself. She cannot destroy him, not entirely, but she can seal him away. Gathering the remaining forces of good, the spirits and creatures who have not yet fallen to the demonic invasion, Hylia leads a final desperate battle against Demise. The conflict is cataclysmic. The very landscape is scarred by the clash between divine light and demonic fury. In the end, Hylia succeeds in sealing Demise away, binding him deep within the earth in a prison designed to hold him for eternity. But this victory comes at an enormous cost. Hylia is gravely wounded, her divine essence nearly extinguished by the effort required to contain such overwhelming evil. She knows that Demise's seal will not hold forever, that eventually the Demon King will find a way to break free, or his servants will find a way to release him. And so the goddess makes one final sacrifice. She chooses to give up her immortality and divine power, to be reborn as a mortal. As a human, she will one day be able to wield the Triforce herself, to use its power in ways that she cannot as a goddess. It is a gamble, a plan that will take generations to come to fruition, but it is the only way to ensure that when Demise returns, there will be someone capable of stopping him permanently. The humans on Skyloft, meanwhile, know nothing of these cosmic machinations. Cut off from the surface world, they adapt to their new life among the clouds. They build a civilization centered around massive birds called loftwings, creatures large and strong enough to carry riders through the open sky. Over the centuries, the people of Skyloft develop their own culture and traditions. They establish a knight academy to train protectors of their society, though what exactly they are protecting against becomes more legend than reality as generations pass. The surface world becomes a myth, a place spoken of in ancient stories but no longer believed to truly exist. It is into this world that a young man named Link is born. He is a student at the Knight Academy, training to become a Knight of Skyloft despite the fact that there are no real threats to defend against. Link is kind-hearted and brave, if somewhat sleepy and prone to tardiness. His childhood friend is a young woman named Zelda, and though neither of them knows it, she is the mortal reincarnation of the goddess Hylia herself. The divine essence sleeps within her, waiting to be awakened. The peace of Skyloft is shattered when a tornado, summoned by dark forces from below, tears through the sky and pulls Zelda down through the clouds toward the surface. Link, desperate to save his friend, discovers that the surface world is not a myth at all, but a real place, wild and dangerous, and filled with monsters. He is guided by the spirit of an ancient sword, a being named Fi, who informs him that he has been chosen for a great destiny. Link's journey takes him across the surface world, through forests and deserts, through ancient temples and ruins that speak to civilizations long forgotten. He learns that he must forge the blade he carries, transforming it through sacred flames and trials until it becomes something greater. This weapon, imbued with the power to repel evil itself, becomes known as the Master Sword. It is the blade of evil's bane, a sword that will echo through history and appear in the hands of heroes yet to come. As Link grows stronger and the Master Sword is completed, the truth of the ancient conflict is revealed. Zelda has been working to restore her memories of her past life as Hylia, preparing herself to maintain the seal on Demise. But the Demon King's servants have been working just as diligently to free their master. Despite everyone's efforts, Demise breaks free from his imprisonment, and Link must face the embodiment of hatred itself in single combat. The battle between Link and Demise is not merely a clash of swords, though that is how it appears. It is a confrontation between the will of the goddesses, channeled through their chosen hero, and the primordial force of destruction that has threatened the world since before recorded history. Link, wielding the Master Sword and empowered by his courage and determination, manages to do what even a goddess could not. He defeats Demise, striking him down and seemingly ending the threat forever. But Demise, even in his final moments, has one last act of malice to commit. With his dying breath, the Demon King speaks a curse. He declares that his hatred will not die with him, that it will be reborn again and again throughout history. Those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero will be cursed to face incarnations of his hatred for all time. It is not merely a threat, but a fundamental alteration of destiny itself, a dark prophecy that will shape the fate of Hyrule for thousands of years to come. With Demise finally destroyed and his curse spoken, the immediate threat to the world has ended. The sky barrier that has separated Skyloft from the surface for so long is no longer necessary. The people who have lived in the clouds for countless generations now have a choice: remain in the home they have always known, or descend to the surface world and reclaim the land their ancestors once walked. Many choose to descend. They bring with them the knowledge and culture of Skyloft, blending it with the ancient remnants of surface civilizations. Zelda, now fully aware of her nature as Hylia reborn, chooses to remain on the surface. Link stays with her, and together they become part of the foundation of a new kingdom. The Triforce, no longer hidden away, becomes the sacred treasure of this new realm. The land is given a name that will endure through ages of prosperity and darkness alike: Hyrule. This is the true beginning of the legend, the point from which all other stories flow. The Curse of Demise ensures that this will not be the last time a hero must rise to face evil, that the cycle of conflict will repeat throughout history, but it also establishes something equally important: that courage, wisdom, and power, when united in the hearts of the worthy, can overcome even the darkest hatred. The Kingdom of Hyrule is founded not just on land and law, but on the promise that when darkness returns, there will always be those willing to stand against it. Many centuries pass after the events of Skyward Sword, and the Kingdom of Hyrule continues to grow and evolve upon the surface world. We now arrive at a period known as the Era of the Hero of Men, a time when Hyrule is still in its relative infancy, but has begun to establish its identity as a realm. It is during this era that a new threat emerges, one that will introduce us to a race of beings so small that most Hylians cannot even perceive them with the naked eye. Long before Link's adventure begins, Hyrule faces a terrible crisis. Monsters pour forth from a dark portal, threatening to overwhelm the young kingdom. The people of Hyrule find themselves defenseless against this invasion, their civilization on the brink of destruction. But salvation comes from an unexpected source. From the sky itself, tiny beings descend, beings so small they can barely be seen. These are the Picori, though they will also come to be known by another name: the Minish. The Picori are a diminutive race, no larger than a human thumb, and they possess powerful magic despite their size. Moved by the plight of Hyrule's people, the Picori bestow upon a brave hero two gifts that will save the kingdom: The first is a golden light, a divine power capable of sealing away evil. The second is a blade, the Pickery Blade, forged with the skill and enchantment that only the Minish can provide. With these gifts, the hero drives back the monsters and seals them away within a chest, which is itself bound by the power of the Pickery Blade. The kingdom is saved, and the Pickery return to their own realm, accessible only through a special portal that opens once every 100 years. This event becomes legend, celebrated annually at the Pickery Festival in Hyrule Town. As the years pass, however, fewer and fewer people truly believe in the Pickery. They become the stuff of fairy tales, stories told to children, their very existence doubted by most adults. Only children, it is said, can see the Minish, a detail that will prove significant. We now move forward to the time of our story when another Link enters the picture. This Link is a young boy living in Hyrule Town, apprentice to a skilled blacksmith named Smith. He is close friends with Princess Zelda, the current ruler's daughter, and their relationship is warm and innocent, untouched by the weight of destiny that will soon fall upon them both. The Pickery Festival arrives once more, marking 100 years since the last celebration. The event features games, festivities, and a tournament of swordsmen, the winner of which will have the honor of touching the sacred Pickery Blade where it rests in Hyrule Castle, still embedded in the chest that seals the ancient monsters. Link and Zelda attend the festival together, enjoying the celebrations. The tournament is won by a mysterious figure named Vaati, who appears seemingly from nowhere and defeats all challengers with ease. As the winner, Vaati is granted access to the Pickery Blade, but Vaati has not entered the tournament for honor or glory. He has come with a singular purpose, driven by a dark ambition. Vaati is himself a Minish, a Pickery who studied sorcery under the Minish sage Eslo, but Vaati's heart became corrupted by his pursuit of power. He sought a legendary treasure known as the Light Force, a golden power said to be the ultimate magic. When Eslo refused to help him find it, Vaati transformed his former master into a talking cap and set out on his own. In Hyrule Castle, Vaati reveals his true nature. He shatters the Pickery Blade with his dark magic, breaking the seal on the chest. Monsters spill forth once more into Hyrule. Vaati demands that the king reveal the location of the Light Force, but when the king cannot or will not comply, Vaati turns his magic on Princess Zelda. She is transformed into stone, frozen in place, her life hanging by a thread. Vaati then vanishes, beginning his search for the Light Force. Link, who witnessed these events, is knocked unconscious during Vaati's attack. When he awakens, he finds himself face to face with Eslo, the cursed cap. Eslo explains the situation and tells Link what must be done. The Pickery Blade must be reforged, made stronger than before so that it can defeat Vaati and break the curses he has cast. But to do this, Link must travel to the Minish world itself and seek the help of the Pickery people. Here, we encounter a unique aspect of this adventure. The Minish live in the same physical space as the Hylians, but at a completely different scale. They make their homes in the tiny spaces of the world, in the grass, in the rafters of buildings, in the cracks between floorboards. To reach them, Link must shrink down to their size, a transformation made possible by special tree stumps scattered throughout Hyrule. With Eslo perched atop his head, Link begins his journey between the two worlds, large and small. Link's quest takes him across Hyrule and deep into the Minish realm. He discovers that the Pickery are not a single unified group, but rather live in different settlements, each with their own culture. Some Minish live in forests, others in towns, still others in remote mountain regions. Link must prove himself to these various Minish communities, earning their trust and their aid. Along the way, he gathers the 4 elements, sacred powers that will allow the Pickery Blade to be reforged into something greater. The blacksmith Malari, a Minish craftsman of great skill, agrees to reforge the blade once Link has collected all 4 elements. The Pickery Blade is transformed into the Four Sword, a legendary weapon with the power to split its wielder into multiple copies of himself. This ability to become 4 Links simultaneously will become the blade's defining characteristic, and the sword itself will appear again in future chapters of Hyrule's history. Armed with the Four Sword, Link confronts Vaati. The sorcerer has discovered that the light force he seeks actually resides within Princess Zelda herself, passed down through Hyrule's royal bloodline. Vaati attempts to extract this power, but Link arrives before the process is complete. The battle that follows pushes Link to his limits, requiring him to master the Four Swords' unique properties. Ultimately, Link prevails, defeating Vaati and using the Four Sword to seal the Dark Sorcerer away within the blade itself. With Vaati defeated, his curses are broken. Princess Zelda is restored from stone, awakening as if from a long sleep. Eslo regains his true form, no longer bound to the shape of a cap. The monsters that escape from the chest are sealed away once more. Peace returns to Hyrule, and the kingdom is saved. But this adventure comes with a bittersweet ending. The Pickery Festival marks the time when the portal between worlds is open, and that time is now ending. The Minish must return to their own realm, and the portal will close for another 100 years. Eslo bids farewell to Link, thanking the young hero for his courage. The Minish depart, fading from the world of Hyrule, and the portal seals behind them. Whether it will ever open again remains unknown. The Minish cap that Eslo leaves behind becomes a treasured artifact, a reminder of the tiny people who twice saved Hyrule from destruction. Many years pass after the Minish cap's sealing of Vati, and Hyrule enjoys a period of relative peace. The Four Sword remains enshrined as a sacred relic, a monument to Link's victory and the Minish people's gift to humanity. But as is so often the case in Hyrule's long history, peace proves temporary. We now move forward in time, still within the era of the Hero of Men, to an incident that would test whether the Four Sword seal could truly hold forever. The trouble begins when the Wind Sorcerer Vati, that same malevolent force imprisoned within the blade generations earlier, manages to break free from his confinement. The exact mechanism of his escape remains unclear in the historical record. Some scholars suggest the seal weakened naturally over time, while others propose that Vati's power slowly eroded the magical bindings from within. Regardless of how it happens, the result is catastrophic. Vati emerges from the sword with his dark powers intact, and his first act of freedom is to kidnap Princess Zelda, continuing the disturbing pattern of Zelda's descendants becoming targets for Hyrule's greatest threats. Vati's motivations mirror his previous crimes. He seeks to claim Zelda's power for himself, drawn to the light force that flows through the royal bloodline. Having been thwarted once before in his attempt to possess this sacred energy, the Wind Mage is determined not to fail a second time. He spirits Zelda away to his palace, a fortress of swirling winds and dark magic, where he intends to drain her of her power and reshape Hyrule according to his twisted vision. A young man named Link, a descendant of the hero who originally sealed Vati, steps forward to rescue the princess. This Link may not be the same individual who wielded the Minish Cap, as the passage of time suggests we are looking at a new generation, but the heroic spirit remains constant. Link travels to the Four Swords Shrine, that sacred place where the blade has rested since Vati's first defeat. The sword calls to him, recognizing in this young hero the courage and purity of heart necessary to wield such a powerful artifact. When Link grasps the hilt and draws the Four Sword from its pedestal, something remarkable happens. The blade's magic activates, and Link's body splits into 4 separate copies of himself, each one a complete and independent version of the hero. This is the Four Swords' true power, the gift the Minish people imbued within the blade. Where one hero might struggle against Vati's might, 4 heroes working in perfect coordination stand a far greater chance of success. Each Link is identical in appearance, dressed in tunics of different colors to distinguish them: green, red, blue, and purple. These 4 heroes share a single mind and purpose, their thoughts and actions synchronized in ways that seem almost supernatural. The journey that follows tests not just Link's combat skills, but his ability to cooperate with himself. The 4 Links must learn to work together, solving puzzles that require multiple heroes acting simultaneously, fighting enemies from 4 directions at once, and navigating dungeons designed with the assumption that only one person would dare enter. The Four Swords' magic allows them to perform feats impossible for a single warrior. They form human bridges by standing on each other's shoulders, attack from multiple angles to overwhelm powerful foes, and activate switches in perfect unison to unlock sealed passages. As the 4 heroes progress through Vati's domain, they encounter the Wind Mage's minions and magical traps. The palace itself seems alive with malevolent intent, its corridors shifting and changing to confound intruders. But the Links press forward, their determination unwavering. They understand what is at stake. If Vati succeeds in draining Zelda's light force, he will become unstoppable, a god of darkness with the power to plunge Hyrule into eternal shadow. The final confrontation takes place in the heart of Vati's palace. The 4 Links face the Wind Sorcerer together, their blades flashing in coordinated strikes that give Vati no quarter. The battle is fierce and desperate. Vati unleashes torrents of dark magic and howling gales that would scatter any normal warrior, but the 4 heroes stand firm. They have learned through their journey that their greatest strength lies not in individual prowess but in unity. Where Vati's magic targets one Link, the other 3 press the attack. When the sorcerer attempts to divide and conquer, the heroes regroup with seamless efficiency. Ultimately, courage and cooperation triumph over malevolence and isolation. The 4 Links strike as one, their swords piercing through Vati's defenses and striking at the core of his being. The Wind Mage's form begins to dissolve, his power unraveling. Princess Zelda is freed from her imprisonment, the light force within her safe from corruption. But the heroes know that simply defeating Vati is not enough. He escaped once before. They cannot allow it to happen again. The 4 Links return the weakened Vati to the Four Sword itself, using the blade's magic to imprison him once more within its steel. The seal is reinforced, strengthened by the hero's victory and Zelda's own sacred power. The sword is returned to its shrine, where it will stand watch over the imprisoned sorcerer for generations to come. The four links merge back into one, the four swords magic releasing its hold. Link emerges victorious, having saved both the princess and the kingdom. This adventure establishes the four sword as more than just a weapon. It becomes a failsafe, a prison specifically designed to contain Vaati should he ever threaten Hyrule again. Centuries pass in relative peace, and the land flourishes under the protection of the goddess's chosen bloodline. But as we approach the era of the Hyrulean Civil War and the coming of the Hero of Time, the kingdom stands on the precipice of its greatest trial yet. This period will not only determine the fate of Hyrule, but will fracture the very flow of time itself, creating consequences that ripple across multiple realities. The story begins with Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo. The Gerudo are a race of desert-dwelling warriors composed almost entirely of women, with only one male born to them every 100 years. By tradition, that male becomes their king, and Ganondorf is that king. But Ganondorf is no ordinary ruler. He is cunning, ambitious, and consumed by an insatiable hunger for power. He has learned of the Triforce, the ultimate power left behind by the goddesses, and he desires it above all else. The Triforce, as you may recall, is the sacred golden triangle that grants the wishes of whoever touches it, a relic of infinite power hidden within the sacred realm. To gain access to the sacred realm, Ganondorf knows he needs the 3 spiritual stones and the royal family's Ocarina of Time, so he approaches the King of Hyrule under the guise of loyalty, pledging the Gerudo's allegiance to the crown. But the young Princess Zelda, gifted with prophetic dreams like so many of her ancestors, sees through his deception. In her nightmares, she witnesses dark clouds consuming the land, and a young boy in green standing against the darkness. She knows Ganondorf cannot be trusted, but she is only a child, and her warnings go unheeded by her father. Meanwhile, deep in the Kokiri Forest, a realm untouched by time where children never age, lives a boy named Link. The Kokiri are a race of eternal children, each partnered with a guardian fairy, living under the protection of the Great Deku Tree, the forest's guardian spirit. Link is different from the other Kokiri. He has no fairy, and though he does not know it yet, he is not actually a Kokiri at all. He is Hylian, brought to the forest as an infant by his dying mother during the chaos of the Hyrulean Civil War, a brutal conflict that ravaged the kingdom years earlier. The Great Deku Tree took pity on the orphan child and raised him among the Kokiri, keeping his true heritage secret. When Link finally receives his fairy companion, Navi, the Great Deku Tree summons him. The ancient guardian has been cursed by Ganondorf, who sought the Kokiri's emerald, one of the 3 spiritual stones. Though Link manages to break the curse temporarily, the Great Deku Tree is already dying. With his final breath, he entrusts Link with the spiritual stone of the forest and urges him to seek Princess Zelda at Hyrule Castle. He tells Link of his destiny, though the full weight of those words will not become clear for some time. Link leaves the only home he has ever known and journeys to Hyrule Castle. There, he meets Princess Zelda, who recognizes him immediately as the boy from her dreams. She explains Ganondorf's treachery and enlists Link's help in a plan to reach the Triforce before the Gerudo King can claim it. She needs Link to gather the 3 spiritual stones, the Kokiri's Emerald, which he already possesses, the Goron's Ruby from Death Mountain, and the Zora's Sapphire from Zora's Domain. Link's quest takes him across Hyrule. He travels to Death Mountain, home of the Gorons, a race of rock-eating, mountain-dwelling people. Their leader, Darunia, has sealed himself away in despair because the mountain's guardian deity, Volvagia, has been disturbed and the Goron's food supply is threatened. Link helps Darunia and earns the Goron's Ruby. Next, he ventures to Zora's Domain, an aquatic realm where the graceful Zora people dwell. There, he learns that Princess Ruto, the Zora princess, has gone missing inside the belly of Lord Jabu Jabu, the Zora's patron deity. Link rescues Ruto and receives the Zora's Sapphire, though not without the headstrong princess declaring that this makes them engaged, a detail that will cause complications later. With all 3 spiritual stones in hand, Link returns to Hyrule Castle, only to find it under attack. Ganondorf has made his move, and the castle is burning. In the chaos, Princess Zelda and her guardian Impa flee on horseback. As they race past Link, Zelda throws something into the moat, the Ocarina of Time, ensuring Ganondorf cannot claim it. Link retrieves the sacred instrument from the water, and Zelda's voice echoes in his mind, teaching him the Song of Time, the key to opening the door of time in the Temple of Time. Link rushes to the Temple of Time, places the spiritual stones on their pedestals, and plays the Song of Time. The door of time opens, revealing the Master Sword resting in its pedestal within. This is the legendary blade forged by the goddess Hylia in ages past, the blade of evil's bane. Link approaches and grasps the handle, pulling the sword free. But there is a problem. Link is too young. The Master Sword is designed to be wielded by the Hero of Time, but Link's spirit is ready while his body is not. The sword recognizes his destiny but cannot be wielded by a child. So the Master Sword does something extraordinary. It seals Link away, placing his body in suspended animation for 7 years until he is old enough to fulfill his role as the hero of time. This is not a gentle sleep. Link is frozen in time, conscious but unable to act, trapped in the space between moments, and in those 7 years, everything falls apart. The moment Link pulled the Master Sword, the path to the Sacred Realm opened. Ganondorf, who had been waiting for exactly this moment, follows Link through and enters the Sacred Realm. He reaches the Triforce, but when he touches it, something unexpected happens. The Triforce judges the heart of the one who touches it, and if that heart does not hold courage, wisdom, and power in perfect balance, the Triforce splits apart. Ganondorf's heart is unbalanced, consumed by power and ambition. The Triforce fractures into its 3 components. The Triforce of power, resonating with Ganondorf's nature, remains with him. The other 2 pieces, the Triforce of wisdom and the Triforce of courage, fly away to those whose hearts embody those virtues. The Triforce of wisdom goes to Princess Zelda, and the Triforce of courage goes to Link, still sealed within the Sacred Realm. Armed with the Triforce of power, Ganondorf becomes nearly invincible. He conquers Hyrule, transforming Hyrule Castle into a dark fortress surrounded by a barrier of flame. The once green fields of Hyrule become a wasteland. Death Mountain erupts continuously. Zora's domain is frozen solid. The Gorons are enslaved. Monsters roam freely, and the people live in terror. Ganondorf styles himself the king of evil, and his dark reign seems absolute. Princess Zelda goes into hiding, disguising herself as Sheik, a mysterious member of the Sheikah warrior tribe, waiting for the day the hero of time will awaken. 7 years after he pulled the Master Sword, Link opens his eyes. He is no longer a child, but a young man, though his mind holds no memories of those missing years. He awakens in the Sacred Realm's Chamber of Sages, where he meets Rauru, the Sage of Light. Rauru explains what has happened, how Ganondorf has conquered Hyrule, and how Link must now awaken the other 5 sages to stand against the King of Evil. Each sage represents one of the elements: forest, fire, water, shadow, and spirit. Only when all 6 sages are awakened can they create a bridge to Ganondorf's castle and seal him away. Link emerges into a Hyrule he barely recognizes. The vibrant kingdom of his childhood has become a nightmare, but he is no longer the helpless boy who left the forest. He is the hero of time, wielding the Master Sword, and he has a destiny to fulfill. One by one, he ventures into corrupted temples and frees them from Ganondorf's evil influence. In the Forest Temple, he awakens Saru, the Sage of Forest, who turns out to be his childhood friend from Kokiri Forest. In the Fire Temple, he defeats the resurrected dragon Volvagia and awakens Darunia as the Sage of Fire. In the Water Temple, he awakens Princess Ruto as the Sage of Water, much to her continued insistence about their childhood engagement. The Shadow Temple and Spirit Temple prove even more challenging, revealing dark truths about Hyrule's bloody history and the corruption that has seeped into the land. Through it all, the mysterious Sheik appears to guide Link, teaching him songs on the ocarina that allow him to warp across Hyrule and manipulate time itself. When Link finally awakens all 5 sages, Sheik reveals the truth. Sheik is Princess Zelda, who has been watching over Link throughout his journey. She awakens as the 7th sage, the Sage of Wisdom, and together they prepare for the final confrontation. But Ganondorf has been waiting. He captures Zelda and seals her within a crystal, using her as bait to draw Link to his castle. Link storms Ganondorf's fortress, and the 6 sages create a bridge of light leading to the throne room. There, Link faces Ganondorf in a battle that will determine the fate of Hyrule. The fight is brutal, but Link prevails, striking Ganondorf down with a Master Sword. The sages begin the sealing ritual, opening a portal to the Sacred Realm to imprison Ganondorf forever. But Ganondorf, empowered by the Triforce of Power, refuses to die. He transforms into Ganon, a massive beast of pure hatred and malice, and the battle continues in the rubble of the collapsing castle. In this monstrous form, Ganon is even more powerful, but Link, with Zelda's help, manages to deliver a final blow. The sages complete the seal, and Ganon is imprisoned in the Sacred Realm, now corrupted into the Dark World by his presence. With Ganondorf defeated and sealed away, peace returns to Hyrule. But Zelda realizes the terrible price Link has paid. He lost his childhood, 7 years stolen from him, all because he pulled the Master Sword too soon. Using her power as the Sage of Time and the Ocarina of Time, Zelda makes a fateful decision. She sends Link back to his childhood, back to the moment before he opened the door of time, giving him a chance to reclaim the years that were taken from him. But this act has profound consequences. When Link is sent back, time itself splits. One timeline continues forward from the moment of Ganondorf's defeat, a world where the hero of time vanished after saving the kingdom. Another timeline branches from Link's return to childhood, a world where he can warn Zelda about Ganondorf before the villain ever gains power. And there is a third possibility, a timeline where Link failed, where Ganondorf claimed victory. 3 timelines, 3 different futures, all born from this single moment. The Legend of Zelda will continue down each of these paths, and the consequences of this split will echo through the ages. After the hero of time is returned to his childhood and warns the royal family of Ganondorf's treachery, history splits into 2 parallel timelines. In the adult timeline, Link simply vanishes, leaving behind a Hyrule without its hero. But in the child timeline, the one we're following now, young Link continues his life with the knowledge of adventures that, for everyone else, never happened. The Triforce of Courage still resides within him, a silent reminder of battles yet to be fought. And yet, despite saving 2 entire timelines, Link feels an emptiness. His faithful companion, the fairy Navi, who had guided him through every trial, departed at the end of his quest. Unable to accept this loss, Link sets out from Hyrule on a deeply personal journey, searching the surrounding lands for his lost friend. It's during this search, somewhere in the Lost Woods beyond Hyrule's borders, that Link encounters a figure wearing a strange, colorful mask. This is Skull Kid, a mischievous forest imp, but something is terribly wrong. The mask he wears, an ancient artifact known as Majora's Mask, has corrupted him, amplifying his loneliness and resentment into genuine malice. Before Link can react, Skull Kid and his 2 fairy companions, Toddle and Tall, ambush the young hero. They steal his ocarina, the precious Ocarina of Time gifted to him by Princess Zelda, and his horse Epona. But the possessed Skull Kid doesn't stop there. Using the dark power of Majora's Mask, he transforms Link into a Deku Scrub, a small plant-like creature, robbing him of his Hylian form and much of his strength. Weakened and disoriented, Link pursues Skull Kid through a hollow tree trunk, a passage that serves as a gateway between worlds. He emerges not in Hyrule, but in an entirely different land called Termina. This parallel world mirrors Hyrule in strange ways. Many of the faces Link sees are eerily familiar, doppelgangers of people he knew in Hyrule, yet living completely different lives with different names and histories. The architecture, the culture, even the geography echoes his homeland, but twisted into something both recognizable and alien. It's as if Termina exists as a dark reflection of Hyrule, a world that developed along similar but divergent paths. Link arrives in Clocktown, Termina's central hub, and immediately recognizes that something catastrophic is unfolding. Looming in the sky above is the moon, but this is no ordinary celestial body. This moon has a twisted, anguished face, and it's falling. Slowly, inexorably, it descends toward Termina, and in exactly 3 days, it will crash into Clocktown, obliterating everything. The townspeople react in different ways. Some deny the danger entirely, insisting the moon will correct its course. Others panic and flee. Many simply go about their daily routines, unable to process the enormity of their impending doom. The town is preparing for its annual Carnival of Time, a festival meant to call upon the gods for a good harvest. But the celebration is overshadowed by the apocalypse hanging overhead. Link soon discovers that Skull Kid, corrupted by Majora's Mask, is responsible for calling down the moon. The mask's ancient evil has given him power far beyond what a simple imp should possess, and he's using it to destroy Termina in a fit of twisted playfulness. During his pursuit of Skull Kid, Link meets the Happy Mask Salesman, a mysterious and unsettling figure who has been traveling through many lands. The salesman explains that Skull Kid stole Majora's Mask from him, an ancient artifact used in hexing rituals by an ancient tribe. The mask contains a terrible evil, and if Link can recover it within 3 days, the salesman promises to return him to his Hylian form. But there's a problem. 3 days is simply not enough time to stop Skull Kid, navigate Termina's 4 regions, and prevent the apocalypse. The solution comes through the Song of Time. When Link finally recovers his stolen ocarina, he learns that playing this song allows him to return to the dawn of the first day, resetting the 3-day cycle. This creates a time loop, a recursive period that Link can relive again and again. Each time he resets, most events return to their starting positions. The people of Clocktown forget what happened, the moon returns to its initial position in the sky, and Link loses most of his physical progress. However, he retains his memories, his collected masks, and certain key items, allowing him to gradually make progress toward his goal across multiple cycles. This time, Loop transforms Link's quest into something fundamentally different from his previous adventure. Rather than a linear journey through dungeons, he must carefully observe and manipulate the schedules and routines of Termina's inhabitants. Every character follows a precise 3-day schedule, and by tracking their movements across multiple loops, Link can intervene at crucial moments to change outcomes. He helps a couple reunite before the world ends. He stops a robbery. He reunites a mother with her missing son. These side quests aren't just optional content, they're deeply integrated into the game's themes of mortality, grief, and the value of individual lives in the face of inevitable catastrophe. To reach Skull Kid and Majora's Mask, Link must awaken 4 guardian giants that once protected Termina. These giants were sealed away by Skull Kid, who felt abandoned by them when they ceased playing with him years ago. His loneliness, amplified by the mask's corruption, drives his destructive actions. Link travels to 4 distinct regions, each themed around a different environment and facing its own localized catastrophe caused by Skull Kid's mischief. In the southern swamp, the water is poisoned. In the Snowhead Mountains, an eternal winter has frozen the land. In the Great Bay, the waters are murky and disturbed, and in Akana Canyon, the dead refuse to rest. Each region contains a temple, and within each temple resides one of the 4 giants. To enter these temples and access their full power, Link must use transformation masks. The Deku Scrub form he was cursed with becomes his first mask, which he can don and remove at will once he's restored to his Hylian form. He later acquires the Goron mask and the Zora mask, each allowing him to transform into those respective races and use their unique abilities. These transformations are more than gameplay mechanics. Each mask is created from the lingering spirit of someone who died tragically, and when Link wears them, he takes on not just their form but echoes of their pain and unfinished business. After awakening all 4 giants and collecting numerous other masks through his interventions in people's lives, Link finally confronts Skull Kid at the top of Clock Tower as the moon begins its final descent. The 4 giants appear and hold back the moon with their combined strength, but Majora's Mask, realizing it's about to lose its host, abandons Skull Kid entirely. The mask itself rises into the moon, and the moon's surface opens, revealing a surreal, grassy field inside with a single tree at its center. Link follows, entering the moon for a final confrontation. Inside this impossible space, Link faces Majora's Mask itself in 3 increasingly chaotic forms. The battle strips away any pretense of reason, revealing the mask as pure childish malice given form. After a climactic battle, Link defeats the ancient evil. The mask falls lifeless, its power broken. Link returns to Termina, where the moon dissolves into harmless fragments, the giants return to their slumber, and the Carnival of Time proceeds as planned. The happy mask salesman departs with the now inert Majora's Mask, and Link, still without Navi, continues his wandering journey. Returning to the child timeline, we jump forward many years after the events of Majora's Mask to find Hyrule once again facing a threat that traces its origins directly back to that pivotal moment when young Link warned Princess Zelda about Ganondorf's treachery. While the Hero of Time prevented Ganondorf from ever touching the Triforce in this timeline, the Gerudo King's ambitions and his attempted coup against the royal family did not go unpunished. The sages, acting on evidence provided by the time-traveling hero, moved to execute Ganondorf for his crimes before he could seize the sacred realm. But fate, it seems, had other plans. During the execution in the Arbiter's grounds, an ancient prison deep in the Gerudo Desert, something unexpected occurred. As the sages prepared to drive their sword through Ganondorf's chest, the Triforce of Power, which he had been granted by the goddesses in the now erased adult timeline, manifested within him. The mark appeared on the back of his hand, and the divine relic's protection allowed him to survive what should have been a fatal blow. In desperation, the sages changed tactics. If Ganondorf could not be killed, he would be banished. Using the Mirror of Twilight, an artifact capable of bridging dimensions, they cast him into the Twilight Realm, a parallel world of shadows that existed alongside Hyrule, inhabited by a race known as the Twilight. The Twilight were themselves descendants of dark magic users who had been banished to the Shadow Realm in ages past, transformed by their new home into beings of Twilight. For generations they had lived in peace under the rule of their royal family, isolated from the world of light. But Ganondorf's arrival would shatter that peace. Nursing his hatred and thirst for power, the banished king began to plot, and he found a willing accomplice in Zant, an ambitious Twilight who had been passed over for the throne in favor of Princess Midna, the true heir to the Twilight Realm. Zant was a sorcerer of considerable skill but questionable stability, consumed by bitterness over what he perceived as an unjust denial of his rightful place as ruler. When Ganondorf offered him power in exchange for his service, Zant eagerly accepted. Empowered by a fragment of Ganondorf's divine strength, Zant staged a coup, overthrowing Midna and transforming her into an imp-like creature, a curse that robbed her of her true form and much of her power. He then declared himself the Twilight King and set his sights on the world of light, using the Mirror of Twilight to launch an invasion of Hyrule itself. The invasion was unlike anything Hyrule had seen before. Rather than an army with swords and shields, Zant's forces spread a supernatural twilight across the land, a creeping shadow that transformed the kingdom into an extension of the Twilight Realm. Those caught within this twilight were transformed into spirits, invisible and intangible, able only to watch helplessly as shadow beasts roamed freely through their homeland. The light spirits, ancient beings who had protected Hyrule since time immemorial, were drained of their power, their essence stolen to fuel Zant's conquest. Province by province, the twilight consumed Hyrule, and the kingdom fell into shadow. In the rural province of Ordona, far from the chaos engulfing the rest of Hyrule, a young man named Link worked as a ranch hand in the small village of Ordon. this Link had no knowledge of his predecessor, the Hero of Time, and no reason to believe his life would be anything other than ordinary. He tended goats, practiced his swordsmanship as a hobby, and was well liked by the villagers who saw him as a reliable, if unremarkable, young man. But when the children of Orden Village were kidnapped by monsters and the twilight began to spread into his homeland, Link pursued the creatures into the Faern Woods, determined to rescue them. Crossing into the twilight changed everything. The moment Link entered the Shadow Realm, he was transformed, his body twisted into the shape of a wolf. Confused and trapped in this bestial form, he was captured and thrown into the dungeons beneath Hyrule Castle, which had already fallen to Xant's forces. It was there, in the darkness of his cell, that Link encountered Midna. The imp appeared to him with an offer. She would help him escape and teach him to survive in his wolf form if he agreed to help her with her own goals. She was cryptic about her true identity and motivations, treating Link with a mixture of amusement and condescension. But he had little choice but to accept her terms. What followed was a quest to restore light to Hyrule, one province at a time. Midna explained that to push back the twilight, Link would need to restore the light spirits by collecting the essence that Xant had stolen from them, essence that now resided within shadow insects scattered throughout each region. As a wolf, Link possessed abilities he never had as a human, enhanced senses that allowed him to track scents and see spirits, and a feral strength in combat. But Midna's magic proved equally invaluable. She could warp Link between locations, assist him in battle, and most importantly, she could temporarily return him to his human form in areas where light had been restored, allowing him to wield sword and shield once more. As they traveled together, the relationship between Link and Midna evolved. What began as a partnership of convenience gradually became genuine friendship. Midna slowly revealed more about herself, her people, and the usurper who had stolen her throne. Link learned that the Twilight were not the monsters Xant had made them appear to be, but rather a misunderstood people who simply wanted to live in peace. And Midna, for her part, came to see Link not as a simple beast of burden, but as a true hero, someone willing to sacrifice everything to protect both his world and hers. The quest led them across Hyrule, from the Goron mines of Death Mountain to the Zora domain of Lanayru, from the desert fortress where Ganondorf had been imprisoned to the hidden village of the Resistance fighters. Along the way, Link encountered Princess Zelda, who had surrendered Hyrule to Xant without a fight to prevent the slaughter of her people. She now remained in the castle as a prisoner, her power sustaining Midna's life when Xant's curse nearly killed the Twilight Princess. Zelda revealed the truth about Xant's master, that Ganondorf, the ancient evil that Link's predecessor had warned her about all those years ago, was the true power behind the invasion. The final confrontation took Link and Midna to the Twilight Realm itself, passing through the Mirror of Twilight to challenge Xant in his own palace. There they discovered the depths of the False King's madness and his complete dependence on Ganondorf's power. When Xant fell, it seemed the threat was over, but Ganondorf himself emerged, possessing Zelda's body and revealing that he had been pulling the strings all along. The final battle raged through Hyrule Castle and across the fields beyond, with Ganondorf demonstrating the full might of the Triforce of Power. But Link, bearing the Triforce of Courage, and Zelda, bearing the Triforce of Wisdom, combined their strength to finally end the Demon King's reign. With Ganondorf defeated and Xant dead, the Twilight receded from both realms, and light returned to Hyrule and the Twilight Realm alike. Centuries pass along the child timeline, and we find ourselves in an era where the events of Twilight Princess have long faded into legend. The Ganondorf who threatened Hyrule in that age is gone, sealed away by the combined efforts of Link and the sages. But peace, as we have learned time and again throughout Hyrule's history, is rarely permanent. A new crisis emerges, one that draws upon ancient powers and introduces a threat that carries a familiar name, but represents something entirely distinct. This crisis begins not with armies or invasions, but with shadows. A mysterious figure appears throughout Hyrule, a dark reflection that seems to mirror Link himself. This entity, known as Shadow Link, is not merely an illusion or a trick of the light. It possesses agency, malevolence, and a clear purpose. Shadow Link moves through the kingdom with singular focus, targeting the Seven Maidens, young women who serve as guardians of the realm's spiritual balance. One by one, these maidens are kidnapped, torn from their sacred duties and imprisoned. Their abduction serves a darker purpose, for their capture weakens the seals that bind an ancient evil. That evil is Vati, the wind mage we first encountered in the Minish Cap, who was sealed away by the Four Sword generations ago. With the maidens removed from their posts and the spiritual barriers weakened, Vati breaks free from his imprisonment. The Wind Sorcerer returns to Hyrule with all his former malice intact, ready once again to spread chaos and claim power. The kingdom faces a threat it believed had been permanently vanquished, a reminder that in Hyrule's cyclical history, old evils have a way of returning. Link, the hero of this era, recognizes that conventional means will not suffice against this threat. The connection between Shadow Link and Vaati's release suggests a coordination that requires extraordinary measures to combat. Link journeys to the resting place of the Four Sword, the sacred blade forged by the Minish and wielded by heroes in ages past. This is the same sword that sealed Vaati before, a weapon of unique power with the ability to split its wielder into multiple forms. Drawing the Four Sword from its pedestal is not a decision made lightly. The blade's magic is ancient and unpredictable, and removing it from its resting place carries risks. But with Vaati free and the maidens in peril, Link has little choice. As his hand closes around the hilt and he pulls the sword free, the blade's magic activates immediately. Link's form shimmers and divides, splitting into 4 distinct versions of himself. Each of these 4 Links is complete, possessing full agency and awareness. They are not mere copies or projections, but true manifestations of the hero, each capable of independent thought and action while working in perfect coordination toward their shared goal. The 4 Links set out across Hyrule, their quest taking them through diverse regions and challenging dungeons. Their unique nature allows them to solve puzzles and overcome obstacles that would be impossible for a single hero. Where one Link might hold down a switch, another can proceed through the open door. Where enemies surround them, they can attack from multiple angles simultaneously. This cooperation is not just tactical, but essential, the very core of their power. The Four Sword did not merely create duplicates, it took the hero's strength and multiplied it through unity. Their journey leads them through confrontations with monsters and minions loyal to Vaati, each battle bringing them closer to the maidens and the Wind Mage himself. The quest is arduous, testing not just their combat skills, but their ability to work as a seamless unit. And throughout their adventure, they catch glimpses of Shadow Link, the dark figure whose actions set this entire crisis in motion. The Shadow remains elusive, always just beyond reach, a persistent reminder that the true architect of these events has yet to reveal himself. Eventually, the 4 Links reach Vaati and engage the Wind Mage in battle. The confrontation is fierce, Vaati wielding all the dark magic and wind-based powers he has cultivated over his long existence. But the coordinated assault of 4 heroes proves too much even for his considerable abilities. Working in concert, the 4 Links exploit openings in Vaati's defenses, counter his magical attacks, and gradually wear down his strength. The battle culminates in Vaati's defeat, the Wind Mage falling once more to the power of the Four Sword. With Vaati vanquished and the maidens rescued, it would seem the crisis has been resolved. But as the 4 Links stand victorious, a revelation emerges that recontextualizes everything that has transpired. The true mastermind behind these events steps forward, and his identity sends shockwaves through the kingdom's understanding of its own history. This figure is Ganondorf, or more precisely, a Ganondorf. But he is not the same Ganondorf who was executed by the sages in Twilight Princess. This is a different individual entirely, born generations later. The Gerudo people you see have a tradition established long ago. Once every 100 years, a single male is born to their otherwise all-female tribe, and that male is destined to become their king. This Ganondorf, whom we might call Ganondorf II to distinguish him from his predecessor, is that rare male born to the Gerudo in this era. He is a descendant of the original Ganondorf's people, carrying the legacy of that name and that role, but he is his own person with his own ambitions. Yet, the parallels are undeniable and deeply troubling. This new Ganondorf has pursued a path remarkably similar to his ancient predecessor. He has sought power, orchestrated elaborate schemes, and manipulated events from the shadows. The entire crisis with Shadow Link, the kidnapping of the maidens, even Vaati's release, all of it was arranged by this Ganondorf to further his own goals. He used Vaati as a tool, a distraction, and a weapon, while he worked toward his true objective. The 4 Links recognize the threat this new Ganondorf represents. Even without the Triforce of power that his predecessor once wielded, this Ganondorf has proven himself cunning and dangerous. He cannot be allowed to continue his schemes. A battle ensues, the 4 heroes facing this descendant of darkness. The fight is challenging, Ganondorf proving himself a formidable warrior and sorcerer. But once again, the coordinated power of 4 heroes working as one proves decisive. Yet, defeating Ganondorf is not enough. Simply striking him down would leave the possibility of his return, or worse, allow his malice to find new forms. The 4 Links recognize that a more permanent solution is required. They turn to the very weapon that gave them their power, the Four Sword itself. The blade that split one hero into 4 possesses another property, the ability to seal away great evil. Working together, the 4 Links use the Four Sword to imprison Ganondorf, binding him within the blade itself. The sword becomes his prison, a mystical cage from which he cannot escape. With Ganondorf sealed within the Four Sword, the immediate threat to Hyrule ends. The 4 Links return the blade to its pedestal, and as they do, they merge back into a single form. The hero is whole again, and the kingdom is safe. But this adventure has revealed something profound and unsettling about the nature of evil in Hyrule's history. Following the sealing of Ganon in the Four Sword, centuries would pass before the kingdom faced its next great trial. But to understand what comes next, we must turn our attention to an entirely different branch of history, a darker path, a timeline born from failure. Remember that pivotal battle in the Temple of Time where the hero of time faced Ganondorf in his monstrous form as Ganon? In the timeline we've been following, the hero succeeded. But there exists another reality, another sequence of events where the outcome was tragically different. This is the fallen hero timeline, and it begins in that same moment of confrontation, except here, the hero of time falls in battle. Without the hero to stop him, Ganondorf claims the Triforce of Courage from Link's defeated body. Combined with his own Triforce of Power and Zelda's Triforce of Wisdom, which he seizes by force, Ganondorf becomes the first person since the creation of Hyrule to possess the complete Triforce. The full power of the Golden Goddesses rests in the hands of the Demon King. The consequences are catastrophic and immediate. The Sacred Realm, that hallowed dimension where the Triforce was meant to be protected, transforms under Ganon's corrupted influence. It becomes the Dark World, a twisted mirror of Hyrule itself, where everything beautiful becomes grotesque, where light gives way to shadow. The Triforce, which should reflect the heart of its holder, warps the entire realm to match Ganon's malevolent desires. The Seven Sages, led by Princess Zelda, mount a desperate counterattack. Though they cannot defeat Ganon outright or reclaim the Triforce, they manage to perform one final act of magic. Using all their combined power, they seal Ganon and the complete Triforce within the corrupted Sacred Realm, now the Dark World. It's a prison, not a victory. The Demon King remains alive, trapped but undefeated, waiting in the darkness with the ultimate power still in his grasp. The Knights of Hyrule, who fought alongside the hero in that great battle, are nearly wiped out. The kingdom is left weakened, traumatized, and forever changed by the knowledge that their greatest champion fell. This becomes known as the Imprisoning War, and legends of it echo through the generations that follow. We now move forward through the centuries of this darker timeline into what historians call the Declining Era. Hyrule has rebuilt itself, but the scars remain. The kingdom exists under the constant shadow of the sealed Dark World, always aware that Ganon waits beyond the barrier, patient and immortal. It's during this era that a wizard named Ganon rises to prominence in Hyrule. He appears during a time of plague and disaster, using his magic to help the people and cure the sick. The King of Hyrule takes him on as a trusted advisor, and Ganom's influence grows. But this benevolence is a mask. Ganon is actually working to break the seal on the Dark World, to free his master Ganon from his ancient prison. Ganon begins systematically kidnapping the descendants of the Seven Sages, young women known as the Maidens. Using dark magic, he sends them into the Dark World one by one. Each maiden sent through weakens the seal a little more. His ultimate goal is to send all seven, plus Princess Zelda herself, the descendant of the sage who led the original sealing, to completely shatter the barrier. Princess Zelda, sensing the danger through dreams and premonitions, reaches out telepathically for help. Her psychic call is heard by a young boy named Link, who lives with his uncle in a house near the castle. On a stormy night, Link's uncle, who is secretly one of the few remaining Knights of Hyrule, takes up his sword and ventures to the castle to investigate reports of strange happenings. He tells Link to stay home, but when his uncle doesn't return, Link follows. He finds his uncle mortally wounded in the castle's underground passages. With his dying breath, the uncle passes his sword and shield to Link and tells him to rescue Princess Zelda. Link makes his way through the dungeons and finds Zelda imprisoned in the castle's sanctuary. He helps her escape through secret passages that lead to the sanctuary, a church where she's given temporary refuge by the priest. But safety is fleeting. Ganon has already sent several maidens into the Dark World, and his power grows stronger. Zelda tells Link of an ancient blade, the Master Sword, which rests in the Lost Woods. It's the only weapon capable of defeating Ganon and, ultimately, Ganon himself. To claim it, Link must prove himself worthy by collecting 3 pendants of virtue, the Pendant of Courage, the Pendant of Power, and the Pendant of Wisdom, hidden in dungeons across Hyrule. Link embarks on this quest, traveling through forests, mountains, and deserts. He explores the Eastern Palace, the Desert Palace, and the Tower of Hera, facing monsters and solving ancient puzzles. Each pendant he claims brings him closer to his destiny. When all 3 are gathered, he ventures into the Lost Woods and finds the Master Sword resting in its pedestal, waiting for a hero worthy to wield it. The moment Link draws the Master Sword, he proves himself the successor to the legendary Hero of Time, a new champion for a new age. Armed with the Blade of Evil's Bane, he returns to Hyrule Castle to confront Ganon, but he arrives too late to prevent the wizard from capturing Zelda. Ganon performs his dark ritual and sends the princess into the Dark World. Link battles Ganon atop the castle tower in a fierce duel of sword against sorcery. He strikes the wizard down, but Ganon's final act is to pull Link himself into the Dark World. The hero finds himself in that corrupted realm, a nightmarish version of Hyrule where everything is twisted and wrong. In the Dark World, Link discovers the imprisoned maidens. each sealed in a crystal within a different dungeon. He also learns a terrible truth. Ganon was never truly his own person, but rather an alter ego of Ganon himself, a projection of the Demon King's will. Ganon has been orchestrating everything from his pyramid prison at the heart of the Dark World, using Aganium as a puppet to engineer his escape. Link must now venture through the Dark World's dungeons, facing even more dangerous enemies and challenges than those in the Light World. One by one, he rescues the 7 maidens, freeing them from their crystal prisons. Each rescue weakens Ganon's hold on the realm and strengthens the forces of light. With all 7 maidens freed, they use their power to break the barrier around Ganon's pyramid stronghold. Link ascends the Dark Tower and enters the pyramid's depths, where he faces Ganon once more. After defeating the wizard's shade, the true enemy finally reveals himself. Ganon, in his full monstrous form, emerges for a final battle. The confrontation is brutal. Ganon wields a trident and commands powerful magic, teleporting around the chamber and hurling devastating attacks. But Link, armed with the Master Sword and silver arrows blessed by the maidens, fights back with equal determination. In the end, the hero prevails where his predecessor could not. He strikes down Ganon and the Demon King falls. With Ganon defeated, Link claims the complete Triforce. Unlike Ganon, whose corrupted heart twisted the sacred realm into darkness, Link's pure heart allows him to make a wish that restores everything. The Dark World transforms back into the sacred realm. Those who died, including Link's uncle and the king, are brought back to life. Peace returns to Hyrule at last, and the kingdom enters a new golden age, finally free from the shadow that had haunted it since the imprisoning war. Following his triumph over Ganon and the restoration of Hyrule, Link's adventures were far from over. Sometime after the events at the Dark World, the hero of legend set sail from Hyrule, seeking to train and prepare himself for future threats. It was during these travels, in the declining era of the fallen hero timeline, that Link would encounter one of the most peculiar and philosophically challenging experiences of his entire journey. His voyage was cut short when a violent storm overtook his ship. Lightning tore through the sky, waves crashed over the deck, and despite his best efforts to maintain control, the tempest proved too powerful. The ship was destroyed, and Link was thrown into the churning sea. When consciousness finally returned to him, he found himself lying on an unfamiliar beach, his sword and shield nearby, but no sign of his vessel or any indication of where the storm had carried him. A young woman named Marin discovered Link on the shore and brought him to her home in Mebe Village. She and her father, Terran, nursed the hero back to health. As Link recovered, he learned that he had washed up on Koholint Island, a seemingly peaceful land inhabited by friendly villagers and curious creatures. The island was watched over by a deity known as the Windfish, an enormous being said to slumber within a giant egg atop the island's highest mountain. The locals spoke of the Windfish with reverence, though none claimed to have ever seen it awake. Link's initial goal was simple: find a way off the island and return to his journey. However, he quickly discovered that escape would not be straightforward. An owl, a mysterious creature that seemed to possess knowledge beyond that of the other island inhabitants, appeared to Link with guidance. The owl explained that the only way to leave Koholint Island was to awaken the Windfish from its eternal slumber. To accomplish this task, Link would need to collect 8 instruments of the Sirens, magical artifacts hidden within dungeons scattered across the island. And so, Link set out once more into danger, exploring Koholint's diverse landscapes. He ventured through the Tail Cave, the Bottle Graveyard, and the Key Cavern, among others. Each dungeon presented unique challenges and housed one of the precious instruments: the Full Moon Cello, the Conch Horn, the Sea Lily's Bell, and 5 others. Along the way, Link encountered enemies both familiar and strange, creatures that seemed like twisted versions of foes he had faced before, yet somehow different. As he progressed in his quest, Link grew closer to the island's inhabitants, particularly Marine. She dreamed of leaving the island herself, of becoming a seagull and flying beyond the shores to see other lands. Her warmth and kindness made Koholint feel less like a prison and more like a home. The villagers welcomed Link, the island's mysteries intrigued him, and for a time, the urgency of his quest seemed to fade into the background of daily island life. But the owl continued to appear, urging Link forward, and as more instruments were gathered, a troubling truth began to emerge. The owl revealed fragments of a larger reality. Koholint Island existed within the dream of the Windfish. Everything Link saw, everyone he met, the very ground beneath his feet, all of it existed only within the sleeping deity's consciousness. The island, the villagers, Marin, none of it existed in the waking world. This revelation cast Link's quest in a darker light. To awaken the Windfish and escape the island meant ending the dream. And when the dream ended, everything and everyone on Koholint would cease to exist. The nightmares that guarded the instruments, the monsters that attacked Link in the dungeons, they were not merely obstacles. They were manifestations of the dream's desire to continue, desperate attempts to prevent the dreamer from waking. Link faced an agonizing choice, though, in truth, it was no choice at all. He could not remain on Koholint forever. The island was not real, no matter how real it felt. Marin, despite her dreams and personality and the connection they had formed, was a creation of the windfish's sleeping mind. To stay would be to trap himself in an illusion, and eventually, the dream might collapse on its own, perhaps taking Link with it. With all 8 instruments of the sirens finally gathered, Link climbed to the peak of Mount Tamaranch and stood before the giant egg. He played the Ballad of the Windfish, a melody formed by combining the power of all 8 instruments. The egg cracked open, revealing a pathway inside. Link entered and faced the final manifestation of the nightmare, the embodiment of the dream's will to survive. After a fierce battle, Link emerged victorious. As he stepped out of the egg, the island began to fade. The colors drained from the world, the structures became transparent, and the people of Koholint dissolved like mist in the morning sun. Marin's final words echoed in Link's mind as everything disappeared around him. Link opened his eyes to find himself clinging to driftwood in the middle of the ocean, the storm having passed. Above him, the windfish flew through the clear sky, finally awake after its long slumber. And for just a moment, Link thought he saw a seagull flying alongside it. Whether it was truly Marine, granted her wish in some form, or merely a hopeful vision, he would never know for certain. The hero was alone once more, adrift at sea, but alive and free from the dream. After Link's awakening from the windfish's dream, the hero returns to Hyrule, but his respite proves brief. The Triforce, sensing new threats emerging across distant lands, calls upon him once more. In the continuing declining era of the fallen hero timeline, Link finds himself transported to 2 interconnected realms beyond Hyrule's borders, the rustic land of Holodrum and the mystical kingdom of Labrynna. These twin adventures, though separated by geography, form part of a single sinister plot that threatens not just these distant lands, but the very possibility of Ganon's return to power. The Triforce's summons is not random. In a remote temple, the Golden Relic recognizes that dark forces are moving against the natural order itself, manipulating the fundamental forces that govern reality. The sacred triangles transport Link first to Holodrum, a land of changing seasons where nature's cycles dictate the rhythm of life. He arrives to find a traveling troupe of performers, and among them, a graceful dancer named Din. But this is no ordinary performer. Din is, in fact, the Oracle of Seasons, a mystical guardian whose very essence maintains the balance of spring, summer, autumn, and winter across Holodrum. Link's arrival comes moments too late to prevent catastrophe. A towering figure clad in dark armor, a general known as Onyx, emerges and captures Din in a crystal prison. Onyx is no mere warlord. He serves as the General of Darkness, an agent of shadow sent specifically to throw Holodrum into chaos. With Din imprisoned within his fortress, the Temple of Seasons sinks deep into the earth, and the natural progression of seasons across Holodrum grinds to a halt. Winter grips lands that should bloom with spring flowers. Summer's heat scorches autumn fields. The seasonal chaos threatens to starve the population and corrupt the very land itself. Link's quest to restore the seasons requires him to master the Rod of Seasons, an ancient artifact that allows its wielder to change the seasons in localized areas. This power proves essential for navigating Holodrum's transformed landscape. A path blocked by snow can be cleared by summoning summer's warmth. A dried riverbed can be filled by calling forth spring rains. Through 8 dungeons scattered across the disrupted land, Link gathers the essences of nature, mystical artifacts that hold the key to reaching Onyx's stronghold. Each essence represents a fundamental aspect of the natural world: fertility, ancient wood, bright sun, and others that together form the foundation of Holodrum's existence. The confrontation with Onyx in his Dark Tower reveals the general's true form. The armored warrior transforms into a massive dragon-like beast, wielding the captured Oracle of Seasons as both shield and power source. The battle tests everything Link has learned in his journey through the chaotic seasons. Only by defeating this General of Darkness can Din be freed and the Temple of Seasons restored to its rightful place, allowing the natural cycles to resume their eternal dance. But Onyx's defeat is only half of a larger design. The Triforce, recognizing that the threat extends beyond Holodrum, transports Link to the neighboring kingdom of Labrynna. This land is governed not by the cycles of nature, but by the flow of time itself. Here, Link encounters a woman named Nehru, who, like Din before her, appears to be an ordinary traveler. In truth, Nehru is the Oracle of Ages, the guardian whose power maintains the proper flow of past, present, and future in Labrynna. Once again, Link arrives just as disaster strikes. A sinister figure named Varan, calling herself the Sorceress of Shadows, possesses Nehru's body, using the Oracle's own power to corrupt the flow of time. Varan's magic is insidious and far-reaching. She travels back to Labrynna's past and begins altering history itself, changing events that ripple forward to create a dark present. Forests that should stand tall are reduced to stumps. Buildings that should exist are never built. People who should live free are enslaved in projects that serve only Varan's mysterious agenda. To counter Varan's temporal manipulation, Link must wield the Harp of Ages, an instrument whose melodies can open portals between Labrina's past and present. The hero finds himself constantly moving between time periods, solving problems in one era that create solutions in another. A seed planted in the past becomes a mighty tree in the present. A structure built centuries ago provides access to previously unreachable areas. Through 8 dungeons spanning both time periods, Link collects the essences of time, artifacts representing concepts like echo, symmetry, and the eternal cycle of ages. The nature of Varan's possession makes her particularly difficult to defeat. The Sorceress of Shadows can abandon one host body and flee into another, forcing Link to pursue her through multiple vessels before finally cornering her in her true form. The final battle takes place in the Black Tower, a structure that exists outside normal time, where Varan transforms into monstrous forms that embody her power over shadows and temporal distortion. Only by severing her connection to the Oracle of Ages can Link restore the proper flow of time to Labrina. With both Onyx and Varan defeated and both oracles freed, it would seem that Link's twin quests have reached their conclusion. But these victories reveal a darker truth. The attacks on Holodrum and Labrina were never meant to conquer these lands for their own sake. They were rituals, carefully orchestrated ceremonies designed to light the flame of destruction and the flame of sorrow. These mystical fires, kindled through the chaos and suffering caused by the Generals of Darkness, serve as the first 2 components of a 3-part resurrection ritual. The architects of this grand scheme finally reveal themselves: Twin Rova, the paired witches Kotake and Kumi who once served as Ganondorf's surrogate mothers. These ancient sorceresses survived their apparent death in the future era and have been working across the declining timeline to revive their dark master. The flames of destruction and sorrow, lit through Onyx and Varan's actions, are joined by a third element, the flame of despair, which Twin Rova kindles through the sacrifice of Princess Zelda herself, whom the witches have captured for this very purpose. In a dark ceremony, the 3 flames converge, and the ritual begins to pull Ganon's essence back from the void. But the resurrection is incomplete. Link arrives in time to disrupt the final stages of the ceremony, confronting Twin Rova before Ganon can be fully restored. The twin witches merge their fire and ice powers in a desperate final gambit, but even their combined might cannot overcome the hero who has already conquered 2 lands and saved 2 oracles. With Twin Rova's defeat, the resurrection ritual collapses. Ganon's essence, partially summoned but lacking the power for true rebirth, manifests as a mindless, bestial force, a shadow of the Demon King's true power. Link destroys this incomplete abomination, preventing Ganon's return and saving not just Holodrum and Labrina, but potentially all of Hyrule from renewed darkness. The oracles are saved, the seasons and ages restored, and the great conspiracy to revive the Demon King lies in ruins. After Link's adventures with the Triforce brought him across the seas to Labrina and Holodrum, Hyrule settled once more into an uneasy peace. The kingdom had survived the schemes of Twin Rova and Ganon's failed resurrection, but the scars of that dark age remained. Generations would pass before the next crisis emerged, and when it did, it would come from a direction no one in Hyrule could have anticipated. We now move forward into the declining era, to a time when the kingdom had rebuilt itself into a prosperous realm, its people believing the worst of their trials lay behind them. It is here that we encounter the events of A Link Between Worlds. This new chapter begins in a Hyrule that has enjoyed considerable stability. The kingdom has flourished, its towns and villages thriving under the rule of a new Princess Zelda, a descendant of the royal line who embodies the wisdom and grace of her ancestors. The Master Sword rests once again in its pedestal in the Lost Woods, waiting for a hero who might need it. The Triforce itself remains safe within the sacred realm, protected by the 7 sages, descendants of those who sealed Ganon away long ago. On the surface, everything appears tranquil. Our hero in this tale is a young man named Link, though not the same Link who faced Ganon in ages past. This Link works as a blacksmith's apprentice in Hyrule, living a quiet life crafting swords and tools. He is humble, hardworking, and utterly unaware of the destiny that awaits him. When his master, the blacksmith, asks him to deliver a sword to the captain of the guard at Hyrule Castle, Link accepts the errand without hesitation. It seems like a routine task. It is anything but. At the castle, Link witnesses something that chills him to his core. A mysterious figure dressed in elaborate robes stands before Princess Zelda and her attendant, Impa. This is Yuga, a sorcerer whose appearance is as striking as his power is terrible. Yuga possesses an unusual obsession with beauty and art, viewing the world through the lens of aesthetics. He has come to Hyrule with a singular purpose, one that becomes horrifyingly clear when he raises his staff. With a flash of dark magic, Yuga transforms both Impa and the captain of the guard into paintings, flat images trapped on the castle walls. Before Link can intervene, Yuga vanishes, leaving behind only confusion and terror. Princess Zelda tasks Link with investigating these strange attacks. She explains that Yuga has been traveling across Hyrule, targeting the descendants of the Seven Sages, the very individuals whose ancestors helped seal Ganon away. One by one, Yuga has been turning these sages into paintings, trapping them in two-dimensional prisons. Link sets out to stop this madman, but he quickly realizes he is outmatched. When he confronts Yuga at the Eastern Palace, the sorcerer effortlessly defeats him and prepares to turn Link himself into a painting. At this moment of desperation, something miraculous occurs. A strange bracelet on Link's wrist, a gift he received earlier from a mysterious merchant named Ravio, begins to glow. The magic within it reacts to Yuga's spell, and instead of being destroyed, Link gains an extraordinary new ability. He can now merge into walls, becoming a living painting that can move along flat surfaces. This power allows him to slip through the cracks in Yuga's magic and escape, but more importantly, it gives him the means to pursue the sorcerer through dimensions. Link uses his new ability to travel across Hyrule, reaching areas that were previously inaccessible. He navigates dungeons, solves puzzles that require him to think in both 2 and 3 dimensions, and gradually rescues the captured sages from their painted prisons. Each sage he frees adds to his strength and resolve, but despite his best efforts, Yuga remains one step ahead. The sorcerer's true goal becomes apparent when he infiltrates Hyrule Castle and transforms Princess Zelda herself into a painting. With all 7 sages and Zelda captured, Yuga reveals the full scope of his plan. Yuga tears open a rift between dimensions, creating a portal to another world. This world is called Lorule, and it exists as a dark mirror to Hyrule itself. Lorule was once a thriving kingdom, nearly identical to Hyrule in every way. It had its own royal family, its own Triforce, and its own history of heroes and legends. But Lorule's history took a catastrophic turn. The people of that realm grew weary of the endless conflicts that arose over the Triforce, the wars and betrayals that seemed to follow the sacred relic wherever it appeared. In an act of desperation, Lorule's royal family made a fateful decision. They destroyed their Triforce, believing that eliminating the source of so much strife would bring lasting peace. They were wrong. The Triforce was not merely a prize to be fought over, it was the very foundation of Lorule's existence, the divine power that maintained the stability of the realm itself. Without it, Lorule began to decay. The land crumbled, the sky darkened, and the people faced slow extinction. By the time of Link's adventure, Lorule is a dying world, a shadow of its former glory desperately searching for salvation. Link pursues Yuga through the rift and finds himself in this twisted mirror realm. Lorule is haunting in its familiarity. The geography mirrors Hyrule's, but everything is inverted, corrupted, darker. Where Hyrule has light, Lorule has shadow. Link meets Ravio again, the mysterious merchant who gave him the wall-merging bracelet, and learns that Ravio is actually from Lorule. Ravio has been helping Link because he understands the stakes better than anyone. In Lorule, Link discovers the truth behind Yuga's actions. The sorcerer serves Princess Hilda, the ruler of Lorule and counterpart to Princess Zelda. Hilda is not evil by nature. She is desperate. She has watched her kingdom die slowly, watched her people suffer, and she has concluded that the only way to save Lorule is to take Hyrule's Triforce by force. Yuga has been gathering the sages and Zelda because their power, combined with the paintings, can break the seal on Ganon. Yuga intends to merge with Ganon, gaining the Demon King's Triforce of power, and then use that strength to seize the rest of Hyrule's Triforce for Hilda. Link races to stop this plan, but he arrives too late. Yuga succeeds in merging with Ganon, becoming a horrifying fusion of sorcerer and demon. The creature that emerges wields immense power and nearly destroys Link. In a final confrontation within Lorule's sacred realm, Link faces this abomination and, through courage and skill, manages to defeat it. He reclaims the Triforce of power and frees Princess Zelda from her painted prison. But the story does not end with Yuga's defeat. Princess Hilda, driven by desperation, attempts to take the Triforce for herself. She reveals that this was her plan all along, to use Yuga as a tool to obtain what Lorule needed to survive. Ravio, who is revealed to be Hilda's loyal attendant and the Lorule equivalent of Link himself, finally speaks up. He begs Hilda to reconsider, to see that stealing another world's hope cannot be the answer. In the end, it is compassion that saves both worlds. Link and Zelda, standing together with the complete Triforce of Hyrule, make a wish. They wish for Lorule's Triforce to be restored, for the sister kingdom to have its own hope returned. The divine power answers, and Lorule's shattered Triforce is made whole once more. The dying kingdom begins to heal. Princess Hilda, moved to tears by this act of selfless kindness, realizes the error of her desperation. The rift between worlds closes, and both Hyrule and Lorule can finally look toward a brighter future. Sometime after the events in Lorule, during what historians call the declining era of the fallen hero timeline, a new Link emerges in response to a crisis of a rather unusual nature. This particular hero is summoned not to Hyrule, but to the neighboring kingdom of Hytopia, a land where fashion and style are held in such high regard that they form the very foundation of the kingdom's culture and identity. Hytopia is a realm unlike any other in the Zelda universe. While most kingdoms in this franchise concern themselves primarily with matters of military strength, magical artifacts, or political stability, Hytopia has built its entire society around the art of fashion. The citizens of this kingdom judge one another by the quality and creativity of their outfits, and the ability to coordinate colors and accessories is considered as valuable a skill as swordsmanship might be elsewhere. This cultural emphasis on appearance is not mere vanity, however. In Hytopia, fashion represents self-expression, creativity, and the very essence of what makes their kingdom unique. The crisis that brings our hero to this fashion-forward land centers on Princess Styla, the beloved daughter of King Tuft. The princess has fallen victim to a terrible curse, one that has trapped her inside an inescapable brown bodysuit. Now, you might think that being stuck in unflattering clothing hardly qualifies as a kingdom-threatening emergency, but in Hytopia, where fashion is everything, this curse represents a catastrophe of the highest order. The brown bodysuit is not only aesthetically displeasing by Hytopian standards, it also cannot be removed by any conventional means, and the princess is forced to remain hidden away in shame, unable to fulfill her royal duties or appear before her people. The source of this cruel curse is Lady Maud, a witch whose motivations stem from jealousy and spite. Lady Maud had once hoped that her own daughter would be celebrated as the most stylish person in the kingdom, but Princess Styla's natural grace and impeccable fashion sense overshadowed all competitors. Unable to accept that her daughter would never achieve the recognition she desired, Lady Maud turned to dark magic, cursing the princess in an act of petty revenge. The witch's power proves formidable enough that none of Hytopia's own champions can break the curse, forcing King Tuft to look beyond his borders for help. Enter our Link, who arrives in Hytopia answering the king's call for heroes. However, this particular quest comes with an unusual requirement. According to a prophecy that has guided King Tuft's search, the curse can only be broken by 3 heroes working in perfect coordination. These heroes must be true of heart and impeccable of style, meaning they need both the courage to face danger and the fashion sense to properly coordinate their outfits. This prophecy establishes the core mechanic that defines this adventure: cooperative multiplayer gameplay where 3 Links, each controlled by a different player, must work together to overcome challenges. Link joins forces with 2 other heroes, and together this trio embarks on a quest that takes them through a series of elaborate dungeons and challenges. Each location they explore is themed around different aspects of fashion and style, from forests filled with fabric-like foliage to volcanic regions where the very rocks seem to shimmer with metallic sheen. The structure of their quest revolves around collecting materials and creating fashionable outfits, each of which grants the heroes special abilities needed to progress. These outfits are far more than mere cosmetic choices. Each ensemble provides specific powers that prove essential for solving puzzles and defeating enemies. One outfit might grant the ability to shoot multiple arrows at once, while another could provide immunity to certain environmental hazards or enhance the hero's swimming capabilities. The 3 Links must coordinate not only their actions but also their wardrobe choices, ensuring they have the right combination of abilities to overcome each obstacle. This fusion of fashion and function creates a unique gameplay experience where style and substance are genuinely intertwined. As the 3 heroes venture deeper into their quest, they face increasingly complex challenges that test both their combat skills and their ability to work as a unified team. Puzzles require all 3 Links to stand on specific platforms simultaneously, or to throw one another across gaps that no single hero could cross alone. Boss battles demand careful coordination, with each hero fulfilling a specific role in elaborate strategies. The Witch Lady Maud watches their progress, sending increasingly powerful minions to stop them, but the 3 heroes prove unstoppable when working in harmony. The quest culminates in a confrontation with Lady Maud herself. The witch, desperate to prevent the heroes from breaking her curse, unleashes the full extent of her magical power against them. But the 3 Links, now clad in their most powerful outfits and moving with perfect synchronization, overcome every obstacle she places in their path. They defeat Lady Maud in battle, and with the witch's power broken, the curse on Princess Styla finally lifts. Princess Styla is freed from the hideous brown bodysuit, able to once again wear the beautiful garments befitting her station. The Kingdom of Hytopia celebrates the return of their princess and honors the 3 heroes who saved her. King Tuft rewards the Links generously, and peace returns to the fashion-obsessed kingdom. While this adventure may seem lighter in tone compared to the apocalyptic threats faced in other Zelda games, it nonetheless demonstrates an important truth: that heroes rise to meet whatever challenges their era presents, whether those challenges involve ancient evils seeking to conquer the world, or curses that threaten the cultural identity of an entire kingdom. Centuries pass in the fallen hero timeline, and we find ourselves in what is known as the Declining Era, a period when the Kingdom of Hyrule has become a shadow of its former glory. The land has been scarred by Ganon's repeated resurrections, and the royal family struggles to maintain order against the constant threat of darkness. It is during this era that we arrive at the events of the very first Legend of Zelda game, the one that started it all back in 1986, though chronologically it falls near the end of this particular timeline branch. By this point in history, Ganon has returned once again, but this time he has achieved something truly catastrophic. The Prince of Darkness, as he is known throughout the land, has managed to steal the Triforce of Power. Remember, the Triforce is split into three pieces: power, wisdom, and courage. With the Triforce of Power in his possession, Ganon has become nearly unstoppable, his dark magic amplified to terrifying levels. His armies of monsters roam freely across Hyrule, and the kingdom teeters on the brink of total collapse. Princess Zelda, the current bearer of the royal bloodline and keeper of ancient wisdom, realizes the dire situation. She knows that if Ganon obtains the Triforce of Wisdom as well, he will have 2/3 of the complete Triforce, granting him power that could reshape reality itself. The only piece he would lack is the Triforce of Courage, but with two pieces under his control, finding the third would only be a matter of time. Understanding this threat, Zelda makes a desperate decision. She takes the Triforce of Wisdom and splits it into 8 fragments, scattering them across the land in hidden locations, places of power where they might remain safe from Ganon's reach. Each fragment is secreted away in a labyrinth, protected by monsters and traps, making them nearly impossible for Ganon's forces to recover. But Zelda's plan does not go unnoticed. Ganon learns of what she has done, and in his rage, he dispatches his armies to capture the princess. Despite the efforts of her protector, Impa, Zelda is seized by Ganon's forces and taken captive. The Prince of Darkness imprisons her, hoping to torture the locations of the Triforce fragments from her, or perhaps simply to eliminate the royal bloodline once and for all. With the princess captured and the Triforce of Wisdom scattered, Hyrule's situation seems hopeless. Impa manages to escape the attack, fleeing into the wilderness with the knowledge of Zelda's plan. She searches desperately for someone who can help, someone brave enough to stand against Ganon's might. It is then that she encounters a young boy named Link. This Link has no connection to the previous heroes of legend, at least none that is immediately apparent, but he possesses something rare in these dark times: courage. When Impa tells him of Zelda's fate and the scattered Triforce of Wisdom, Link does not hesitate. He takes up sword and shield and sets out on a quest that will take him across the length and breadth of Hyrule. Link's journey is one of the most iconic adventures in gaming history, and it establishes the template that so many future Zelda games would follow. He must explore the overworld of Hyrule, a dangerous land filled with monsters, secrets, and hidden pathways. His goal is to find the 8 fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom, each one hidden within a labyrinth. These dungeons are scattered across diverse environments: forests, mountains, lakesides, and graveyards. Each labyrinth is a test of courage, cunning, and combat skill, filled with enemies, puzzles, and traps designed to stop intruders. As Link ventures deeper into each dungeon, he faces powerful guardians, boss monsters that have taken residence in these places of power. He collects new items and weapons along the way: bombs to blast through walls, a bow to strike distant enemies, a magical boomerang, a raft to cross water, and a ladder to traverse gaps. Each tool opens new paths, both within the dungeons and across the overworld itself, allowing Link to reach previously inaccessible areas. The adventure is non-linear in a way that was revolutionary for its time. You can tackle many of the labyrinths in different orders, discovering secrets and shortcuts that reward exploration and experimentation. One by one, Link conquers the labyrinths and recovers the fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom. With each piece he claims, he grows stronger and more experienced, transforming from a simple boy into a true hero. Finally, with all 8 fragments united, the Triforce of Wisdom is made whole once more. But Link's quest is not complete. The Triforce of Wisdom reveals to him the location of Ganon's lair, Death Mountain, a place of fire and darkness where the Prince of Darkness has made his stronghold. Link ventures into Death Mountain for the final confrontation. The path is treacherous, filled with Ganon's most powerful servants and deadliest traps. But Link has come too far to turn back now. In the deepest chamber, he faces Ganon himself. The battle is fierce, with the Prince of Darkness wielding the full power of the Triforce of Power against Link's skill and the Triforce of Wisdom. But courage proves stronger than darkness. Link defeats Ganon, striking him down and recovering the Triforce of Power. With Ganon vanquished, Link rescues Princess Zelda and peace returns to Hyrule, at least for a time. The kingdom has been saved, and a new legend has been born. 6 years pass. The land of Hyrule enjoys a fragile peace under Link's protection, but the hero who saved the kingdom at age 10 now faces an entirely new challenge, one that will test not just his courage in battle, but his very identity as the bearer of the Triforce. Link is now 16 years old. On the back of his left hand, a strange mark suddenly appears, glowing with an otherworldly light. The mark resembles three golden triangles, the unmistakable shape of the Triforce itself. Impa, the elderly nursemaid who has served Hyrule's royal family for generations, recognizes this sign immediately. She knows it is time to reveal a secret that has been kept hidden for centuries, a secret so profound that it gave rise to a tradition that would echo through Hyrule's history. Impa leads Link to the North Castle, to a room that has remained sealed and forgotten. There, behind a magical barrier that only someone bearing the mark of the Triforce can pass, lies a young woman in an enchanted sleep. This is Princess Zelda, but not the Zelda that Link knows. This is the very first Zelda, the original princess of Hyrule, who has been sleeping here for hundreds of years. Impa tells Link the tragic story. Long ago, when the king of Hyrule died, he left the complete Triforce to his son, the prince. However, the prince received only two pieces, the Triforce of Power and the Triforce of Wisdom. The third piece, the Triforce of Courage, was hidden away, and only the king's daughter, Princess Zelda, knew where it was concealed. A wizard close to the prince demanded that Zelda reveal the location of the Triforce of Courage, but she refused to speak. In his anger, the wizard placed a curse upon her, a sleeping spell from which she would never wake. The wizard's own magic consumed him, and he died, but the damage was done. The prince, overcome with grief and guilt at what his ambition had caused, ordered that every princess born to Hyrule's royal family would be named Zelda, so that the tragedy would never be forgotten. The mark on Link's hand is a sign. He is destined to find the Triforce of Courage, the missing piece that has eluded Hyrule for centuries. Only by uniting all three pieces of the Triforce can the sleeping Princess Zelda be awakened from her eternal slumber. Link's quest takes him far beyond the borders of the Hyrule he saved 6 years ago. He must journey to new lands, seeking out 6 crystals hidden in palaces scattered across a vast and dangerous territory. These palaces are ancient structures, filled with powerful monsters and complex challenges. Each crystal Link recovers allows him to break one of the magical barriers protecting the Great Palace, the final location where the Triforce of Courage has been hidden for centuries. The journey is grueling. Link faces enemies more numerous and more cunning than those he encountered as a child. The adventure demands that he grow stronger, learning new techniques and abilities. He masters powerful magic spells, learning to transform his body, to heal his wounds, to leap great distances, and even to become invisible. The hero who once relied primarily on his sword and shield now becomes a warrior versed in both combat and sorcery. As Link places each crystal in its pedestal, he draws closer to the Great Palace. The palace itself is a towering structure, a monument to ancient Hyrulean power and a final test of worthiness. Its halls are filled with the most dangerous creatures Link has yet faced, guardians that have protected the Triforce of Courage for generations beyond counting. At the heart of the Great Palace, Link encounters his greatest challenge. A figure emerges from the shadows, identical to Link in every way. This is his shadow, a dark reflection of himself, a manifestation of his own doubts and fears given form. The shadow matches Link move for move, strike for strike. It knows everything Link knows because it is Link, twisted into darkness. The battle is not just physical, but spiritual. Link must confront the darkness within himself, the part of him that questions whether he is truly worthy of the Triforce, whether a boy who stumbled into heroism at age 10 deserves to be called the greatest hero of Hyrule. Link defeats his shadow, not by overpowering it, but by accepting it, by proving that his courage is stronger than his doubt. The shadow dissolves, and the path forward opens. Beyond the shadow lies the Triforce of Courage, glowing with golden light. As Link approaches, the piece rises into the air, and the mark on his hand blazes with power. The Triforce of Courage merges with him, joining the Triforce of Power and Triforce of Wisdom that he claimed 6 years ago. For the first time in centuries, the complete Triforce is united in a single person. Link returns to the North Castle, to the sealed room where the first Princess Zelda sleeps. The complete Triforce radiates from him, its power washing over the sleeping princess. The ancient curse breaks. Her eyes open. After hundreds of years, the original Princess Zelda awakens. The kingdom rejoices. Link has not only saved Hyrule from Ganon's darkness, but has also righted an ancient wrong, bringing peace to a tragedy that has haunted the royal family for generations. The hero, who began his journey at age 10, has now, at 16, achieved something no hero before him could accomplish. He has proven himself worthy of the complete Triforce, and in doing so, has secured his place as one of the greatest heroes in all of Hyrule's long history. Many generations after the Hero of Time's final adventure in the Decline timeline, we now shift our attention to the Adult timeline, a branch that split from the moment the Hero of Time was sent back to his childhood at the end of Ocarina of Time. In this timeline, the hero simply vanished from history, leaving the kingdom to face its future without him. And that future arrived sooner than anyone hoped. Centuries passed in relative peace. The legends of the Hero of Time became stories told to children, tales of a young man in green who once saved the kingdom from a great evil. But legends, as we've seen throughout the series, have a way of becoming relevant again. Without warning, Ganondorf returned. The king of evil, who had been sealed away by the hero of time and the seven sages, broke free from his imprisonment. And this time, there was no hero to answer the call. The people of Hyrule prayed to the gods for salvation. They prayed for the legendary hero to return, for the green-clad warrior of prophecy to appear once more and drive back the darkness. But the hero of time was gone, erased from this timeline the moment Princess Zelda sent him back to relive his childhood. No hero came. No champion rose to meet Ganondorf's army. Faced with the imminent destruction of the world, the gods made a desperate choice. Rather than allow Ganondorf to conquer and corrupt the land, they decided to seal away the entire kingdom. In an act of divine intervention that reshaped the world itself, the gods commanded the heavens to open. Rain fell upon Hyrule, not for days or weeks, but endlessly. The waters rose, swallowing villages, mountains, and eventually the entire kingdom. Hyrule Castle, the Temple of Time, Death Mountain, all of it disappeared beneath an ever-expanding ocean. The gods flooded Hyrule, transforming the once great kingdom into a memory preserved in water, a time capsule of a world that could no longer exist. Ganondorf, along with everything else, was sealed beneath what became known as the Great Sea. The survivors of this catastrophe took refuge on the highest mountaintops, the only land that remained above the water. These peaks became islands scattered across a vast ocean, and the people who lived on them gradually forgot their history. Hyrule became a myth, a kingdom said to exist far beneath the waves, a golden land from ancient times that most believed was merely a fairy tale. Generations passed. The people of the Great Sea adapted to their new world, sailing between islands, fishing, trading, and living lives completely disconnected from the Hyrule that once was. On one such island, Outset Island, a young boy named Link lived a peaceful life with his grandmother and younger sister, Ariel. This Link knew nothing of heroes or prophecies. He was simply a child about to celebrate his birthday, the day he would come of age in his island community. The tradition on Outset Island held that when a boy came of age, he would dress in green, the color of the legendary hero from ancient stories. It was a charming custom, a way of honoring old tales that no one truly believed anymore. Link put on his green tunic, received well wishes from the villagers, and looked forward to a day of celebration. But fate, as it so often does in this series, had other plans. A massive bird, a creature unlike anything the islanders had ever seen, appeared in the sky above Outset Island. Clutched in its talons was a young girl, a pirate who had been kidnapped from her crew. The bird, searching for a place to drop its captive, spotted Link in his green clothes. Perhaps mistaking him for the hero of legend, or perhaps simply startled by the sight, the bird released the pirate girl, who fell toward the island's forest. Link, along with his friend Tetra, a pirate captain who happened to be visiting the island, managed to rescue the girl from the forest. But the bird was not finished. Having seen Link, having perhaps recognized something in the boy dressed in green, the enormous creature returned. This time, it seized Errol, Link's younger sister, mistaking her for the pirate girl it had lost. Before anyone could react, the bird carried Errol away across the Great Sea, disappearing into the distance. Link's peaceful life shattered in that moment. His sister was gone, taken by a monster to an unknown fate. The pirate crew, grateful that Link had helped rescue their comrade and feeling partially responsible for what had happened, agreed to help him. They would sail across the Great Sea, track down the bird, and rescue Errol. Thus began an adventure that would take Link across the scattered islands of this drowned world. He discovered that the bird served a mysterious figure who lived in a fortress far to the north, a sorcerer who was kidnapping young girls with pointed ears for reasons unknown. As Link sailed from island to island, he began to uncover the truth about the Great Sea, about the kingdom that lay beneath it, and about his own connection to the legendary hero. The King of Red Lions, a talking boat who became Link's guide and companion, revealed the history of Hyrule to the young hero. He learned that the kingdom beneath the waves was real, that Ganondorf had returned and been sealed away by the gods themselves, and that the bloodline of the hero still existed in this world. Link was a descendant of the hero of time, and though that ancient champion had been removed from this timeline, his spirit lived on. Link's quest to save his sister evolved into something far greater. He discovered that he needed to collect the scattered fragments of the Triforce of Courage, which had been broken apart and hidden across the Great Sea when the hero of time vanished. He traveled to the Forsaken Fortress and confronted the sorcerer, only to discover a darker truth. The sorcerer was searching for Princess Zelda, the heir to Hyrule's throne, who had been reincarnated in this era but whose identity remained hidden. That identity, Link learned, belonged to someone he already knew. Tetra, the pirate captain who had helped him from the beginning, was revealed to be the Princess Zelda of this age. She carried the Triforce of Wisdom within her, though she had been unaware of her true heritage. With this knowledge came danger. Ganondorf, who had not been completely sealed by the flood, learned of Zelda's identity and captured her. The King of Evil sought to claim the complete Triforce, to wish upon it and restore his power over the world. Link had no choice but to descend beneath the waves, to enter the preserved kingdom of Hyrule itself, frozen in time at the bottom of the ocean. In the submerged ruins of Hyrule Castle, Link found the Master Sword waiting for him, still resting in its pedestal in the same chamber where the Hero of Time had once drawn it. He claimed the Blade of Evil's Bane and proved himself worthy of the title of hero, not through prophecy or destiny, but through his own courage and determination. The final confrontation took place in the drowned throne room of Hyrule Castle. Link faced Ganondorf in a desperate battle, the fate of the world hanging in the balance once more. But this time, the ending was different. With the help of Princess Zelda and the King of Hyrule himself, who had been revealed as the King of Red Lions, Link defeated Ganondorf. The Master Sword pierced the King of Evil, and he was turned to stone, frozen forever in a final moment of defeat. The old kingdom of Hyrule, the king decided, should remain buried beneath the waves, a relic of the past. The future belonged to the young people above, to Link and Zelda, and a world yet to be built. Following the Great Flood and the defeat of Ganondorf, Link and Tetra set sail across the Great Sea in search of new lands to establish a kingdom. Their journey, which takes place shortly after the events we just witnessed, leads them into one of the most perilous adventures yet. This next chapter unfolds in the adult era, continuing along the adult timeline as the pair venture beyond the familiar waters they once knew. During their voyage, Link and Tetra's ship encounters a mysterious vessel shrouded in fog and darkness. This is the Ghost Ship, a spectral craft that appears and vanishes without warning, leaving terror in its wake. Sailors across the Great Sea have whispered tales of this phantom vessel for generations, but none who approached it ever returned to tell the full story. Tetra, ever bold and curious, insists on investigating the ship despite the warnings of her crew. As they draw near, an otherworldly force emanates from the Ghost Ship. Before Link can react, Tetra is pulled aboard the phantom vessel by an unseen power. The Ghost Ship vanishes into the mist with Tetra trapped inside, leaving Link desperate and alone on the deck of their ship. Link attempts to follow, diving into the fog-covered waters after the disappearing vessel. The supernatural currents surrounding the Ghost Ship prove too powerful, and Link is swept away, separated from his crew and lost in unfamiliar seas. When he finally regains consciousness, he finds himself washed ashore on Murke Island, a small port settlement far from any waters he recognizes. The island serves as a hub for sailors and merchants, but it too has been plagued by the Ghost Ship's appearances. The locals speak of the phantom vessel with dread, and none are willing to venture out in search of it. Desperate to find Tetra and lacking a ship of his own, Link explores the island and soon encounters a man named Linebeck. This captain is unlike the stalwart heroes Link has met on previous adventures. Linebeck is a self-proclaimed treasure hunter and sailor who values his own safety and profit above all else. He owns a small steamship, a technological marvel in these seas, powered by an engine rather than wind alone. Despite his cowardly nature and obvious reluctance, Linebeck possesses knowledge of the Ghost Ship and the surrounding waters. Link manages to convince him to help, though Linebeck makes it clear he is motivated primarily by the promise of treasure rather than heroism. Together, Link and Linebeck set sail aboard Linebeck's steamship, venturing into the world of the Ocean King. This realm exists as a separate dimension from the Great Sea, a mystical domain ruled by the Ocean King, a powerful deity who maintains balance over the seas. However, something has gone terribly wrong in this world. The Ocean King has been weakened and imprisoned, his power drained by a malevolent entity. This evil force is Bellum, an ancient demon that feeds on life force itself. Bellum has taken control of the Ocean King's domain and uses the Ghost Ship as a tool to capture victims, draining their life energy to sustain its own terrible existence. Link learns that to reach the Ghost Ship and confront Bellum, he must gather the power necessary to break through the demon's defenses. This requires him to collect 3 sacred treasures, each protected by powerful spirits and hidden across different islands in this strange new sea. These treasures are the spirits of courage, wisdom, and power, echoes of the Triforce virtues that have guided so many of Link's incarnations throughout history. Each spirit resides in a different temple, and each temple presents unique challenges that test not only Link's combat skills, but his puzzle-solving abilities and his very character. As Link and Linebeck sail from island to island, they encounter various inhabitants of this world, many of whom have been affected by Bellum's influence. Some have lost loved ones to the Ghost Ship, others have been transformed or corrupted by the demon's dark power. The journey across these seas is marked by both moments of discovery and growing danger. Link must navigate treacherous waters, battle monsters that have been twisted by Bellum's corruption, and delve into ancient temples filled with traps and guardians. The Temple of Courage stands as the first major trial. Here, Link must prove his bravery by facing illusions and enemies designed to prey on fear itself. The puzzles within require him to use his arsenal of tools in creative ways, often under time pressure as the temple itself seems to drain his life force the longer he remains. Upon completing the trials, Link claims the spirit of courage, and the essence of this virtue strengthens his resolve for the challenges ahead. The Temple of Wisdom presents a different kind of challenge. Rather than testing raw courage, this temple demands careful observation, pattern recognition, and strategic thinking. Link must navigate rooms that shift and change, solve riddles left by ancient builders, and face enemies that cannot be defeated through strength alone. The Spirit of Wisdom, once obtained, grants Link insight that will prove crucial in understanding Bellum's true nature. Finally, the Temple of Power tests Link's combat prowess and physical strength. The Guardians here are formidable warriors and massive beasts that require precise timing and mastery of weapons to defeat. The temple's architecture itself becomes a weapon, with crushing walls, spike-filled pits, and environmental hazards that must be overcome. Claiming the Spirit of Power represents Link's growth as a warrior and his readiness to face the ultimate evil that awaits. Throughout this journey, Linebeck undergoes his own transformation. Initially motivated by greed and self-preservation, he gradually develops genuine concern for Link's mission and even shows moments of true courage. The relationship between Link and Linebeck evolves from one of convenience to actual friendship, with Linebeck's cowardly exterior slowly giving way to reveal a more complex character beneath. With all three spirits collected, Link finally gains the power to reach the ghost ship and confront Bellum directly. The demon reveals its true form, a massive, tentacled horror that exists to consume life force. The battle against Bellum is fierce and spans multiple phases, with the demon using its control over the ghost ship and its ability to drain life energy to devastating effect. Link must use everything he has learned, combining the virtues represented by the three spirits with his own skill and determination. In the climactic moments of the battle, even Linebeck finds his courage, assisting Link in ways that prove crucial to victory. Together, they manage to defeat Bellum, destroying the demon and freeing the Ocean King from his imprisonment. With Bellum's destruction, the ghost ship loses its power, and Tetra is finally freed from her captivity, unharmed but shaken by her ordeal. The Ocean King restored to his full power thanks Link and Linebeck for their heroism. As a reward and as a restoration of the natural order, he returns them to their own world and their own time. Link and Tetra reunite with their crew, and though they have faced yet another great evil, their original mission remains unchanged. They set sail once more across the Great Sea, continuing their search for new lands where they can establish a kingdom, a new Hyrule that will carry forward the legacy of the flooded realm they left behind. Roughly a century after Link and Tetra's ocean voyage aboard the steamship, still within the adult era of the timeline, the descendants of those brave pioneers have transformed their new land into a thriving kingdom. The continent they discovered has been officially christened New Hyrule, a deliberate echo of the drowned realm their ancestors left behind. Tetra, having fully embraced her identity as Princess Zelda, worked alongside that earlier Link to establish a peaceful civilization, one built on the ruins of an ancient kingdom that existed on this land long before their arrival. The spirits of good that once protected this realm, powerful entities who had sealed away a terrible evil in ages past, bless the new settlers and their descendants. But, as so often happens in Hyrule's cyclical history, peace proves temporary, and a new Link must rise to face a resurgent darkness. This new Link is not a hero by birthright or training. He is a young man working as an engineer for the Royal Railway, operating the steam locomotives that connect the various regions of New Hyrule. These trains run on the spirit tracks, magical railway lines that crisscross the kingdom and serve a purpose far greater than simple transportation. The tracks themselves are physical manifestations of a sacred seal, chains of holy energy that bind an ancient demon deep beneath the earth. The current Princess Zelda, a direct descendant of Tetra, has been studying the history of these tracks with growing concern. Ancient texts speak of the spirit tracks weakening over time, and she has noticed sections beginning to vanish, dissolving into thin air as if they never existed. Zelda summons Link to the castle, recognizing him as a promising young engineer who might help her investigate the disappearing tracks. She has arranged a secret meeting with Alfonso, Link's mentor and a trusted advisor, planning to travel incognito to the Tower of Spirits, the central structure from which the spirit tracks emanate. But this meeting has been anticipated. Chancellor Cole, the kingdom's chief advisor and a man Zelda trusted implicitly, is in fact an ancient demon who has spent years positioning himself at the heart of Hyrule's government. Working alongside him is Byrne, a disillusioned former servant of the spirits who believes the old ways have failed and that a new order must rise. As Link and Zelda's train races toward the Tower of Spirits, Chancellor Cole reveals his true demonic form and attacks. Byrne, wielding powerful magic, strikes the princess down, but rather than killing her, they perform a dark ritual that tears Zelda's spirit from her body, leaving her as a ghost invisible and intangible to most people. Cole and Byrne steal her empty body, intending to use the sacred power of the royal bloodline as a vessel. Their goal is nothing less than the resurrection of Malladus, the Demon King, the very evil that the ancient spirits sealed away generations before New Hyrule's founding. The spirit tracks were created specifically to imprison Malladus, and now Cole has been systematically destroying them, weakening the seal piece by piece. Link survives the attack but finds himself in a seemingly impossible situation. The princess is dead, or so it appears to everyone else. Only Link can see and hear Zelda's spirit, a connection neither of them fully understands but which proves essential to their quest. The princess, despite her incorporeal state, refuses to surrender to despair. She realizes that the only way to reclaim her body and stop Malladus is to restore the spirit tracks by visiting the Tower of Spirits and rekindling the sacred seals in each region of the kingdom. The Tower of Spirits itself is a massive structure that exists partially outside normal space, its many floors a proving ground where Link must demonstrate his courage and wisdom. As a spirit, Zelda discovers she has the unexpected ability to possess certain armored guardians called Phantoms, heavily armored knights that patrol the tower. What begins as a desperate survival tactic becomes a powerful partnership. Link and Zelda learn to work in perfect coordination, with the princess controlling these mighty warriors to help Link solve puzzles, defeat enemies, and progress through the tower's challenges. Their relationship evolves from formal propriety to genuine friendship, the shared adversity breaking down the barriers between princess and commoner. As they restore each section of the spirit tracks, Link and Zelda travel to the four corners of New Hyrule, each region presenting unique challenges. The Forest Realm, Snow Realm, Ocean Realm, and Fire Realm each contain a temple where a portion of the seal must be restored. Link proves himself in each sacred space, wielding weapons and tools both familiar and new. The whirlwind, the whip, the bow, and the boomerang become extensions of his will as he battles monsters and solves increasingly complex puzzles. All the while, he travels by train, the railway itself becoming his primary means of navigation and even combat, as he must defend his locomotive from aerial and ground-based attacks while racing between destinations. Throughout their journey, they encounter Byrne repeatedly. The fallen servant of the spirits is a complex figure, not purely evil but deeply bitter about what he perceives as abandonment by the spirits he once served faithfully. He wields gauntlets that give him incredible strength and the ability to create phantom arms that can strike from a distance. His battles with Link are fierce, but there is a sense that Byrne is conflicted, that some part of him questions the path he has chosen. As Link and Zelda restore more of the spirit tracks, they learn the full scope of Cole's plan. The Chancellor intends to use Zelda's body as a host for Malladus, combining the Demon King's power with the sacred energy of the royal bloodline to create an unstoppable force. The resurrection ritual requires specific conditions, and Cole has been manipulating events for years, perhaps decades, to bring all the pieces into alignment. The final confrontation takes place as Cole completes the ritual. Malladus's essence is transferred into Zelda's body, and the Demon King rises once more, possessing the princess's physical form. But in this desperate moment, Byrne's doubts crystallize into action. Seeing the true horror of what he has helped unleash, he turns against his former ally, sacrificing himself to give Link and Zelda a fighting chance. His redemption comes at the cost of his life, but it provides the opening the heroes need. Link must face the terrible reality of battling Malladus while the demon inhabits Zelda's body, forcing him to find ways to damage the demon without harming the princess. The battle is grueling, pushing Link to his absolute limits. Eventually, through a combination of courage, skill, and the sacred power of the restored spirit tracks, they manage to drive Malladus from Zelda's body. The Demon King, forced into his true monstrous form, makes a final stand. Link and Zelda, reunited in body and spirit, combine their strengths. The princess channels sacred energy through the Bow of Light, while Link delivers the final blow, destroying Malladus completely and saving New Hyrule from demonic tyranny. With Cole defeated and Malladus destroyed, the spirit tracks are fully restored, stronger than ever. Zelda reclaims her body and her throne, but she is forever changed by her experience. The formal princess has become a true hero in her own right, and her friendship with Link, the engineer who became a champion, remains unshakable. New Hyrule enters a new era of peace, its foundation secured by the courage of two young people who refused to let darkness prevail. Thousands upon thousands of years after the tracks of the Spirit Train fell silent, after the timeline branches had each played out their destinies through countless ages, something extraordinary occurred. The three divergent paths of history, those separate streams that had flowed from the hero of time's fateful choice, began to converge once more. How this reconciliation happened remains one of the greatest mysteries in all of Hyrulean history. Perhaps the goddesses themselves intervened. Perhaps the passage of so much time simply wore away the walls between realities. Whatever the cause, the result was unmistakable. The fractured timeline healed, and Hyrule entered what scholars now call the Calamity Era, a unified age that would see both the kingdom's greatest technological triumph and its most devastating fall. The legends speak of an age roughly 10,000 years before the present, a time when the kingdom of Hyrule had achieved heights of magical technology never before seen. This ancient civilization developed massive mechanical constructs called divine beasts, enormous animal-shaped machines that could be piloted by chosen champions. They created an army of autonomous guardians, spider-like constructs bristling with ancient energy weapons. These were not mere tools of war, but a comprehensive defense system built for one specific purpose: to combat the prophesied return of Calamity Ganon. And return he did. 10 millennia ago, a monstrous force of pure malice erupted from beneath Hyrule Castle. This was Ganon, but transformed beyond recognition, no longer a man or even a beast with coherent form, but rather a writhing mass of hatred and destructive power. The ancients called this entity Calamity Ganon, a name that spoke to its nature as a force of catastrophe rather than a thinking being. But the ancient Hyruleans were prepared. The divine beasts, piloted by champions from across the land, unleashed devastating attacks. The Guardian army mobilized. A princess with the blood of the goddess and a hero with the soul of courage fought alongside them. Together, they sealed Calamity Ganon away beneath the castle, and peace returned to the land. For 10,000 years, this victory became legend, then myth, then half-remembered fairy tale. Hyrule rebuilt, prospered, and eventually forgot the true nature of the threat that slumbered below. The divine beasts were buried beneath the earth and sand. The guardians lay dormant in fields and forgotten corners of the kingdom. The knowledge of how to operate them faded into obscurity. When scholars rediscovered these ancient machines, they marveled at them as relics of a lost age, never quite believing that the calamity could return. But the prophecies were clear, even if people chose not to hear them. Calamity Ganon would return in a cycle, just as Ganon always had. 100 years before the present day, the signs began to appear. Princess Zelda, a young woman struggling desperately to awaken the sealing power that should have been her birthright, studied the ancient texts with growing dread. Her father, King Rome, ordered the excavation and restoration of the guardians and divine beasts. 4 champions were chosen from the various peoples of Hyrule: Mipha, the Zora princess with her gift for healing, Daruk, the mighty Goron warrior, Revali, the proud Rito archer, and Urbosa, the wise Gerudo chieftain. Each would pilot one of the divine beasts, and protecting them all was Link, a young knight who had already proven himself by pulling the Master Sword from its pedestal in the Korok Forest, marking him as the chosen hero. They prepared for war. They trained. They made their plans. But Ganon, even as a mindless force of hatred, possessed a terrible cunning. When the calamity erupted from beneath Hyrule Castle, it did not simply attack with brute force. Instead, it sent out tendrils of malice that infected and corrupted the very machines built to destroy it. In an instant, the entire Guardian army turned against Hyrule. The divine beasts, those mighty weapons of the ancients, became prisons and tombs for the champions who piloted them. Ganon created hideous phantoms, manifestations of blight, and sent one into each divine beast. Mipha, Daruk, Revali, and Urbosa, the greatest warriors of their age, were slaughtered within the machines they had sworn to command. The kingdom fell in a single day. Castletown burned. The Guardian army, now corrupted by malice, marched across Hyrule, leaving only destruction in their wake. Link fought desperately to protect Princess Zelda as they fled toward Fort Hateno, but he was grievously wounded, struck down by Guardian after Guardian. As he lay dying, Zelda's power finally awakened. In her moment of absolute despair, with the person she loved most about to be torn from her, the sealing power of the goddess burst forth. She commanded the Guardians to stop, and they obeyed. She held back the calamity itself with the sheer force of her light, but Link was dying, and Zelda could not maintain her power indefinitely. In desperation, she ordered her attendants to take Link to the Shrine of Resurrection, an ancient healing chamber discovered during the excavations. There, suspended in a pool of restorative liquid, Link would sleep while his wounds slowly healed. Zelda herself returned to Hyrule Castle and used her power to contain Calamity Ganon, trapping both the monster and herself in a century-long stalemate. She could not destroy it, but she could hold it, buying time for the hero to return. 100 years passed. Hyrule became a wilderness. The few survivors huddled in small villages and towns, living in the shadow of the corrupted guardians that still prowled the land. Monsters multiplied unchecked. The ruins of the Old Kingdom were slowly reclaimed by nature, and in Hyrule Castle, visible from anywhere in the kingdom, a swirling vortex of malice surrounded the structure, a constant reminder that Princess Zelda still fought, still held the line, waiting for a hero who might never wake. But wake he did. Link opened his eyes in the Shrine of Resurrection with no memory of who he was or what had happened. A mysterious voice called to him, urging him to leave the shrine and explore the world beyond. He emerged onto the Great Plateau, a raised tableland that had once been the cradle of Hyrule's founding, and saw a kingdom in ruins spread out before him. Slowly, guided by the voice that he would eventually recognize as Zelda's, Link began to piece together what had happened. He recovered fragments of his memories. He learned of the calamity, of his failure, of the friends who had died, and he set out to finish what he had started a century before. Link traveled across Hyrule, braving shrines left by the ancient Sheikah monks to test future heroes. He freed each of the 4 divine beasts, confronting the blights that had killed the champions and allowing the spirits of Mipha, Daruk, Revali, and Urbosa to finally rest. He reclaimed the Master Sword from the Korok Forest, the blade recognizing its true master even if he did not fully remember himself. He grew stronger, recovered more of his past, and prepared for the final confrontation. When Link finally stormed Hyrule Castle and entered the sanctum where Calamity Ganon had been contained for 100 years, he found Zelda's power at last failing. The monster broke free, and the battle that should have happened a century ago finally took place. Link, wielding the Master Sword and aided by the divine beasts firing upon the castle from their positions around Hyrule, fought Calamity Ganon in its twisted mechanical form, and when the creature was weakened, Zelda, finally free, used her power not to seal, but to destroy, eradicating Calamity Ganon completely. Peace returned to Hyrule at last. The long nightmare was over. Following the defeat of Calamity Ganon, peace returns to Hyrule once more. Yet, as any student of this kingdom's history knows, peace is rarely permanent. In the years after the Great Calamity's end, still within what historians call the Calamity Era, Link and Princess Zelda turn their attention to rebuilding their shattered kingdom. But their efforts soon lead them to a discovery that will shake the very foundations of everything they thought they understood about Hyrule's past. Beneath Hyrule Castle, in depths that have remained sealed and forgotten for millennia, Link and Zelda explore ancient passages that seem to predate even the oldest records of the kingdom. The architecture here is unlike anything seen in the ruins above. Strange glowing glyphs cover the walls, written in a script that Zelda recognizes from her research but has never fully deciphered. The air itself feels different here, heavy with an ancient malice that has festered in darkness for countless ages. As they venture deeper, following a strange green and black substance that pulses like a living thing, they discover a chamber that defies comprehension. There, suspended in the heart of the mountain itself, held in place by a glowing arm covered in sacred seals, hangs the mummified corpse of a man. But this is no ordinary ancient king or forgotten warrior. The desiccated body wears jewelry and robes that mark him as Gerudo, and even in death, even reduced to little more than dried flesh clinging to bone, the malevolence radiating from this figure is unmistakable. Zelda's research has led her to this moment. She realizes with dawning horror that they are looking at the source, the original Ganondorf himself, the demon king whose malice has plagued Hyrule since the kingdom's very founding. The glowing substance, which scholars will later call gloom, begins to pulse more rapidly. The seals that have held this ancient evil in check for so long are failing. As Link and Zelda watch in horror, the corpse's eyes snap open, burning with a hatred that has not diminished across the ages. The mummified Ganondorf moves, and the arm that has imprisoned him for millennia crumbles to dust. In an instant, the gloom surges forward. Link raises the Master Sword to defend Zelda, but the blade that has banished evil time and again shatters like glass against this primordial malice. The gloom engulfs Link's arm, corrupting it with the same dark energy that sustained Ganondorf through the ages. What happens next will be remembered as the upheaval. Ganondorf's awakening sends shockwaves through the very fabric of the land. Hyrule Castle, that ancient seat of power, tears itself free from the earth and rises into the sky, carried aloft by the Demon King's power. In the chaos, as the ground splits and reality itself seems to fracture, Zelda grasps something she found in the chamber, a tear-shaped stone that glows with an otherworldly light. As Link reaches for her, trying to pull her to safety, she vanishes, pulled backward through time itself by forces neither of them understand. Link awakens on a sky island, a fragment of land floating impossibly high above the clouds. His corrupted arm has been replaced, fused with the remains of the glowing limb that once imprisoned Ganondorf. Standing before him is a figure of light, a Zonai, one of the mysterious divine people who descended from the heavens in ages past. This is Rauru, and as he explains to the injured hero, he is the first king of Hyrule, the founder of the kingdom itself. Through Rauru's power, Link's new arm gains incredible abilities. He can fuse objects together, combining weapons and materials in ways that defy normal crafting. He can reverse the flow of time for individual objects, sending them back along the path they traveled. He can pass through solid surfaces, and he can construct vehicles and devices from ancient Zonai technology scattered throughout these sky islands. But Rauru brings dire news. Zelda, pulled back through time by the secret stone she touched, a powerful artifact that amplifies its bearer's innate abilities, has already lived an entire lifetime in Hyrule's distant past. She stood beside Rauru and his Hylian wife Sonia as they founded the kingdom. She witnessed Ganondorf's first betrayal, when the Gerudo king murdered Queen Sonia and stole her secret stone, using its power to transform himself into the Demon King. And when it became clear that even Rauru's sacrifice, using his own life force to seal Ganondorf away, would only delay the inevitable, Zelda made an impossible choice. She swallowed her own secret stone, knowing that the transformation would be irreversible, and became an immortal dragon, a being of pure light and power that could watch over the Master Sword through the ages, healing it and empowering it so that when the time came, when Link would need it most, the blade would be ready. The revelation is staggering. The light dragon that Link has glimpsed soaring through the skies, that ancient worm that seems to follow a path through the heavens, is Zelda herself, transformed and waiting across thousands of years for this very moment. Link's quest becomes clear. He must explore not only the sky islands above, but also the vast depths below, the dark underworld where gloom pools and festers. He must investigate mysterious ruins that have emerged from beneath the earth, ancient zonai structures that hold the key to understanding this vanished civilization. And he must grow strong enough to face Ganondorf himself, the original Demon King at the height of his power. The final confrontation takes place deep beneath Hyrule Castle, in the same chamber where this crisis began. Ganondorf has been gathering his strength, and he wields power that makes his previous incarnations seem like pale shadows. The secret stone he stole from Queen Sonia has amplified his abilities to godlike levels. He commands armies of monsters, manipulates the gloom itself as a weapon, and even creates phantom versions of Hyrule's greatest champions to fight at his side. The battle is fierce, pushing Link to the absolute limits of his abilities and the powers Rauru granted him. But even when Link strikes what should be a finishing blow, even when the Demon King falls, Ganondorf makes one final desperate choice. Just as Zelda transformed herself to protect the future, Ganondorf swallows his own secret stone, knowing the cost. The transformation is immediate and horrifying. He becomes a dragon, but where Zelda's draconic form radiates light and hope, Ganondorf becomes the Demon Dragon, a massive beast of pure malice and destruction that takes to the skies, threatening to reduce all of Hyrule to ash and ruin. Link, riding on the back of the Light Dragon, on Zelda herself, engages in one final aerial battle. With the restored Master Sword in hand and the power of Rauru's arm, he strikes again and again at the Demon Dragon, each blow weakening Ganondorf's hold on his corrupted form. At last, with a final thrust of the sacred blade directly into the dragon's head, Link destroys the secret stone that sustains the transformation. Ganondorf dissolves, his malice finally purged, his cycle of reincarnation seemingly broken at last. And as the Demon Dragon fades, so too does Zelda's transformation reverse, the princess restored to her true form, falling from the sky into Link's arms. Hyrule is saved once more, and perhaps this time the peace will last. And so, from the divine intervention of the golden goddesses who shaped the land of Hyrule and forged the Triforce in the age before memory, through the eternal cycle of the Demon King's hatred and the goddess's chosen hero reborn across countless generations, we have traced the complete chronology of the Legend of Zelda. What began with Hylia's sacrifice to protect the Triforce from Demise's wrath set in motion an unbreakable chain of destiny, one that would see the kingdom of Hyrule rise and fall, prosper and crumble, only to be rebuilt again by those who carried the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero. We witnessed the first Link's triumph over Demise in Skyloft, establishing the eternal curse that would bind hero, princess, and demon across the ages. We saw the kingdom's founding and the forging of the Master Sword, that blade of evil's bane which would become the symbol of hope throughout history. The timeline then fractured at its most crucial juncture during the Hero of Time's confrontation with Ganondorf, creating three distinct branches of history, each one a testament to the weight of a single moment and the consequences of victory and defeat. In the timeline where the Hero of Time fell, we watched Hyrule descend into chaos, saved only by the 7 sages who sealed Ganon away, leading to the imprisoning war and eventually to the near destruction of the kingdom itself, until a new hero arose to defeat Ganon and claim the complete Triforce, bringing about an age of gold that would itself eventually decline into the era of decline, where Hyrule fractured into warring states before being reunited, only to face Ganon's return again and again, each resurrection bringing the kingdom closer to oblivion, until finally, a hero awakened from a century of slumber to face Calamity Ganon and begin the kingdom's slow recovery. In the timeline where the Hero of Time succeeded and returned to his childhood, we observed 2 diverging paths. One where he warned the royal family of Ganondorf's treachery, leading to the tyrant's execution and the subsequent opening of the Twilight Realm, which would later threaten Hyrule when the usurper king Zant, empowered by Ganondorf's lingering hatred, plunged the kingdom into shadow, until a new hero bearing the mark of the Triforce and blessed by the spirit of the ancient hero drove back the Twilight and finally ended Ganondorf's ambitions in that timeline. And another path where the Hero of Time departed through time itself, leaving behind no hero to stand against future threats, forcing the gods themselves to flood the kingdom when Ganon returned, preserving the land beneath the Great Sea, where eventually a new hero arose not through destiny, but through choice. A boy with no connection to the ancient bloodline who nevertheless proved worthy to wield the Master Sword and defeat Ganondorf once and for all in that drowned world. After which, he and Princess Zelda sailed away to discover new lands and found a new kingdom, one that would face its own trials when a Demon King threatened to resurrect Ganondorf, only to be stopped by yet another hero who traveled by rail across the newly established realm. Then came the Era of the Wilds, an age so distant from all that came before that the legends themselves had faded into myth, where the three timelines appeared to reconverge into a single history, though whether through divine intervention, the passage of countless millennia, or the nature of time itself remains a mystery known only to the goddesses. In this far future, we saw Hyrule reach perhaps its greatest height of prosperity and technological achievement, with the Sheikah tribe developing miraculous machines and weapons to combat the prophesied return of Calamity Ganon, only for those very creations to be turned against the kingdom when the Calamity finally emerged, destroying nearly everything the kingdom had built and forcing Princess Zelda to hold Ganon at bay for 100 years while the hero recovered from his mortal wounds in the Shrine of Resurrection. When Link finally awakened with no memory of his past, he embarked on a journey to reclaim his strength and his identity, gathering the support of the kingdom's scattered peoples and the spirits of the fallen champions, ultimately confronting Calamity Ganon in the ruins of Hyrule Castle and, with Zelda's power, destroying the ancient evil once and for all. Or so it seemed. But even in defeat, Ganondorf's malice endured, for deep beneath Hyrule Castle, sealed away for 10,000 years or more, the original Demon King's body remained, held in place by a mysterious arm and the power of an ancient Zonai king, his malice having seeped upward through the ages to manifest as the calamity that had plagued the kingdom. When Link and Zelda discovered this terrible truth, Ganondorf broke free of his bonds, his power shattering the Master Sword and mortally wounding Link, even as he caused Hyrule Castle to rise into the sky and unleash the upheaval upon the land. Zelda, in a desperate attempt to restore the Master Sword and give Link the power to defeat Ganondorf, made the ultimate sacrifice, swallowing a secret stone and transforming herself into an immortal dragon, losing her identity and memories to become the guardian of the sword across thousands